Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Наші
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 764 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And once again, Putin is threatening to kill everybody, and they're losing planes left and right. But it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, as Putin has made a statement today declaring that the Russians will preemptively target and strike NATO airfields of any countries that provide Ukraine with F-16s or any countries that allow Ukrainian F-16s to operate from them. We also saw that Russian aircraft were getting shot down in the Black Sea near to the area of Sevastapol on the Crimean Peninsula, and we were also able to see a lot of other major stuff that has happened today. And of course, just got news right before we were going live of a major missile attack once again being planned by the Russian Federation, as several Tu-95 strategic bombers are making their way into the northern Caspian Sea. We also have a load of other news. We also have news from the Free Russian Army today. We also have news from the front lines of Ukraine, and we have news from really anywhere and everywhere. There's also a little bit that we do not have on the map tonight that we probably will cover a little later, which is the Russian Pacific Fleet based out of the port of Vladivostok all the way over here is currently in the southern Red Sea at the moment, and appears to be attempting some sort of an escalation that would have been given over to the Black Sea Fleet if it wasn't for the Bosphorus and Dardanelles being closed. We're going to be covering all of that tonight, and it's a lot of news, loads of news as a matter of fact, and it's time for us to get into the first part of it right here, right now, and it is this statement from Putin talking about preemptive strikes being launched onto NATO territory. Here it is.
Конечно, если они будут применяться с аэродромов третьих стран, они для нас становятся легитимной целью.
Now, and it is back. So sorry about the interruption there, everyone. For some reason, things on the internet side of things just aren't going too well. But beyond that, getting back to this and starting off hopefully where I last left off, the F-16, according to the Russians, is going to be a legitimate target wherever it may be, including inside of NATO territory as well. That means, for example, let's just say hypothetically, one of these F-16s is based out of the Rezhal airfield, which should be close nearby to the city of Rezhal. Here it is, right up here. If an F-16 was to be based out of this airfield, that means that this airfield, where the F-16 is at, is now a target, and the Russians are going to be viewing the F-16 on the tarmac as a legitimate target to attack and destroy. This is something that is very concerning, considering that attacking NATO territory, especially with NATO aircraft on the territory of a NATO country, this is something that could rapidly lead to a third world war, a full-on conventional war, because such an attack would be a provocation by the country that received the attack. So going off of all of this and trying to come off with a interesting kind of a resolution here, this looks to be one of the most provocatory statements that has ever been made over the course of the entire war in Ukraine against NATO countries. This is directly threatening, and I know many people are about to say, he didn't say they'd strike a NATO airfield. This is saying if these aircraft take off from a third-party airfield, meaning a NATO country, because NATO is the only one providing the F-16s and currently training the Ukrainians on the F-16, this means that he is going to view that as a target, and the Russian armed forces are potentially going to work off of that and target these airfields and attempt to destroy them or the aircraft that are on the airfields. I cannot stress enough how bizarre of a statement that is, how wild it is, and also on top of that, the fact that this is apparently being told to some sort of officers in the Russian army, as we see right here, the shoulders of two officers that he's talking to. So it's a very, very odd thing, and a lot of people have been talking about this statement today. We've seen this being brought up in some circles, whether Putin is actually serious with these kinds of statements, or whether he's just bluffing and trying to say some absolutely crazy stuff to freak people out in the West and maybe make them back off of the Russians or the Russians' intentions inside of Eastern Europe. A lot of people have had many different opinions on this, and some people say that Putin is just saying absolute BS and nothing is actually serious about that. Some people say that Putin is actually making a real credible threat against NATO and its security, and then some people are saying that they probably need some more information on the whole ordeal. But while we let people talk about that a little bit more in the live chat and figure out where they want to go with that or what they're really thinking about that statement, it's time for us to get into the rest of Moscow for just a brief moment, because we actually saw that one of the chief propaganda editor-in-chiefs of Russia today was asked some questions by a Western journalist that is inside of Russia. I don't know if the Western journalist got the memo that he should not be in Russia. It is a generally unsafe place, but I'd like y'all to hear the questions that our little editor-in-chief of Russia Today was asked, and not only that, the kind of answer that she gave, because it was a very interesting one. So I'm going to let the clip play, and I'm not going to talk through it.
Serious challenger in the election, a serious opponent.
Is there a need for a serious opponent? Why?
Why is there no need for a serious opponent?
Why do you always think that the way you live is better than the way we live? Even the way you ask questions. Why don't you guys do the way we do it? Because we're not you, and we don't like you much, really.
Was there a
Interesting
serious...
statements.
Jeez, man. The guy asked the question, why don't you want a serious challenger? Meaning, why don't you want, free and fair elections that are actually have some competition? And she said, well, why do you live the way you like to live? It's like, what the hell? It's like, that didn't even address the point.
It really did not address the point at all. And it's really interesting to me that this lady goes from, this guy saying, so why in the world was there no serious opponent? It goes straight from that to her saying, everyone hates you and no one wants you here. It's like, that doesn't even answer the question. That's just bashing someone for the hell of it. But beyond that, a fairly interesting and a fairly odd statement. One to be sure of. But moving on from that, we also got to hear that the Russians are now claiming that the Ukrainians were the ones who are the financiers of the Crocus City Hall attack. According to Visegrad 24 today, and information that they were able to get from the Russian committee that is investigating this terrorist attack, pretty much the board of inquiry, they said that the terrorist attack in Moscow was apparently financed by a man who is Ukrainian. Look at that. Can you all believe that? It's crazy, because they said that they have evidence that this attack was financed by Ukraine. Now, that's a little bit weird to me that no matter what, the Russians are trying to move this into a blame game on Ukraine. ISIS has already come out and taken direct responsibility for what has happened at Crocus City Hall and said that that was entirely their doing and no one else was involved, no other third party, including Ukraine. We've also seen Belarus, through Lukashenko, come out and make a statement pretty much throwing the entire Russian theory out of the window by saying that the terrorists were originally trying to flee through Belarus, and after they got word that the Belarusians had shut the border down to them and were not going to allow them into Belarus, then they turned on a desperate fleeting attempt to try and head towards Ukraine and try and run across the border there into Ukraine without being seen. So the entire story has fallen apart for the Russians, and they're still going with trying to grasp at straws at some kind of a general theory that the Ukrainians were the ones who funded and really facilitated this attack. This is something that I think is going to be pretty see-through. I don't think anyone, including the Russian government, is actually taking this all that seriously, in my opinion, because it just seems so bizarre. Like, everything is going against the grain. Everyone's stories, every single shred of evidence is going against that actual story. Everything is just insane as far as this goes. It is an ISIS-run attack. And something else that was interesting I did not include in the news tonight as a bulletin or a clip is that Putin said, and this was one of the craziest things I'd ever heard so far, that ISIS is funded and operated by the United States of America, and that's why ISIS has never attacked any NATO countries or the United States in the past. All right. Well,
Go ahead. I'm super busy.
Interesting. Dead silence. But beyond that, what is a little bit bizarre about that is that if many of y'all remember, there have been terrorist attacks on the United States and Western European countries in the past. And during that time window, there were absolutely no attacks on the Russian Federation to speak of. I'm talking about the San Bernardino attack of 2015, which was an ISIS-led attack. The attack in Nice, France, which ended up leading around 70 to 80 killed after a ISIS terrorist rented a van and ran it through a crowd. There are multiple different instances where there have been massive terrorist attacks inside of Western Europe and in North America that were funded and operated by ISIS. And then Putin wants to act like none of that's ever happened. And the first time anyone's been attacked by ISIS ever in a terroristic form, way, or shape is the Russians themselves. And he also tried to make a claim today that ISIS is in fact never been fought against by the United States, and the Russians are the only ones that are actually trying to destroy ISIS because they support the Bashar al-Assad regime and the United States does not. I think he's forgetting that back in the middle of the 2010s, the United States formed a massive coalition after all the terrorist attacks that happened here to send everyone into the Middle East to go crush ISIS. That's why ISIS ceased to exist as an actual landmass on the planet, and now the territories that were once ISIS controlled are either controlled by the Bashar al-Assad regime, the Syrian Democratic Forces in northeastern Syria, or by the Iraqis themselves, considering that they just don't exist and cease to exist as an actual illegitimate country as far as land holdings go in 2018. That is just absolutely insane for me to hear something like that from the Russians, but things have not been going well for them right now, even down in Ukraine. And this moves us on into the next big breaking news that we got today. We saw that a Russian Su-35, it's been identified as an Su-27 airframe. We're believing it to be an Su-35, as we understand that at the moment, out of Belbek Airfield, just north of Sevastapol, there's an Su-35 fighter wing base there, not an Su-27 fighter wing. But beyond that, right outside of the port of Sevastopol, a Su-35 fighter aircraft was apparently shot down today outside of Sevastopol. If this was a Ukrainian long-range anti-air attack, this is the longest range attack that has ever been conducted in the history of the war, at a whopping 150 miles. Just to put that into perspective, if a S-200 was to attempt to shoot down that A-50, it would have only had to have traveled around 120 miles, meaning that this attack was around 30 miles deeper into Russian-controlled airspace than the prior attack on the Russian A-50, and if this aircraft was shot down, we seriously have to contend now that the theory that the Ukrainians have been able to modify older S-200 missiles into multiple hundred of miles range missiles that are fairly effective at engaging and destroying targets may actually be a reality. And we were able to see the video of this Su-27 coming down in a ball of flames just out of the city of Sevastopol. We see the Su-27 right there. It appears that the majority of the damage was caused to the fuel tanks that were on the left side of the aircraft. This looks to be the right side, but we were to flip the aircraft over because it's actually inverted, and it's in an inverted spiral pretty much. If we were to flip it back over right side up, this is actually the left side, showing that some kind of a missile detonated on its left side and has punctured the fuel tanks, and the heat of the jet engines has most likely ignited the vapors or the actual fuel, and it's now burning as it continues to descend towards the ground. The pilot did eject. We were able to see a video that I'm not showing on stream tonight, showing that the pilot did eject and his chute had been deployed, but there goes the Su-27 crashing into the sea right outside of the city of Sevastopol.
Man, that thing literally fell out of the sky like a brick. It didn't even float. It just fell.
Yeah, it just plummeted straight out of the sky. That's usually how most of them do, because after they get hit, usually the hit destabilizes their airframe and they might flip. And if they flip at a very high speed, it'll just break apart the airframe in air and the entire plane will disintegrate. This one appears to have been hit possibly in some kind of a harder left or right bank, maybe a 90 degree or something like that bank. And when the pilot ejected, the plane continued on flying probably until it stalled, and then it went into a flat spin upside down. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we got to see another view of the shoot down right here. This was apparently deeper in the city of Sevastopol and was filmed by a cameraman, camerawoman that was inside of a moving car. But we can see the Su-27, Su-35 spiraling down into the sea below. And there it goes behind the roof. We can now see another angle. Okay, we got a cartoon character here narrating it.
It's the cousin of the guy who's in the ATGM video.
Man, this guy sounded like he was absolutely zooted on whippets. Listen to him. I'm telling you, that guy's on nitrous or something. It's like, But anyways, that's the end of that clip. But we did get to see that the Su-35s and the Su-27, whichever one it was shot down very close to Sevastopol. Just really, from what we can tell, it was somewhere up here on the northern side. It was actually not that far from Belbek Airfield. And this is starting to show that maybe, possibly, the Russian Air Force is not safe anywhere at this point. We don't know if this was a friendly fire incident, which it's plausible that this was a Russian friendly fire incident. The problem with that theory, though, is that we never got to see any videos showing the air defense around Sevastopol being active. If it was, usually civilians are filming that footage because it's incredibly loud. The missiles are usually roaring directly over the city, so it catches a lot of people's attention, and they like to aim their cameras upwards and film the anti-air missiles flying out on their way. We never saw any footage like that. We just saw that that the Su-35 was going down and then crashed right outside of Sevastapol. Going off of that, I would have to believe that it is possible, highly possible, due to the lack of any evidence of Russian air defense activity, that this was in fact a Ukrainian anti-air strike and the longest range one of the war so far. We'll be having to really try and find that out as the next days go by, because more footage will probably come out from the crash or what happened around Sevastopol during that time, and if there's any footage showing that the Russian air defense was active, we might be able to assume that it was another friendly fire incident like we're believing with the A-50 command aircraft. If we cannot find any of that evidence, then we have to believe that the Ukrainians do have the ability, through their modified S-200s, to strike incredibly deep into Russian airspace at Russian air targets, and that also means that we'll have to revise the theory on this channel that the A-50, shot down a little while ago, was shot down by Russian air defense, because now it would be entirely plausible that Ukrainian S-200s were what really brought down the A-50. But moving on from that, the air defense situation is pretty tough from what we can tell in Russia, either due to bad training and friendly fire, or because of Ukrainian air attacks being able to reach much farther into Russian territory. Beyond that, however, this brings us back to the original big news of the night, which was Putin saying that preemptive strikes could be launched on F-16s flying from third country airfields, such as a NATO country or anything similar, and what y'all are thinking about that. Loads of y'all have made y'all's inputs and put in your thoughts or your ideas on what this really means or what this really is about. And many of y'all seem to not really be buying what Putin is saying. And Matthew, what do you think about what Putin said, and what is everyone else saying about it?
All right, so we asked everybody in the audience, what are your thoughts about Putin saying that Western air bases housing F-16s for deployment in Ukraine will be legitimate targets in the future? It looks like 59% said Putin is just yapping, he's not serious. 21% said Putin is making a real threat, and 14% said he seems serious, but I need some more information. And in my opinion, I don't think that Putin is really ready to start a war with the West like that. He even said it in the same sentences. He was talking about, striking the Western air bases. He said that it was foolish to even entertain the idea that Russia could go up against NATO, and that's just nonsense. But then in the same line, he said he's going to attack NATO. So make that make sense. But me personally, I think he's just yapping. I think it's like the Lukashenko statements yesterday. Putin simply wants to sound tough, and that's what he's doing. I don't think he's really serious about that because it would mean the end of Russia. But Enforcer, what say you?
One thing I have to say, though, is that I would not take Putin's statement at face value saying, it's impossible. Russia can't even take on the West. Because he also said, leading up to the war, the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Russia would never invade Ukraine. They are our friends, our partners. No such thing will ever be considered. And he said that all the way up until 2022. So I wouldn't take his statements at face value and say, oh, yes, clearly he will not try and go to war with the Western world. He can say whatever he wants right now and know that it's true that Russia would be curb stomped if they did go to war with the West. But that wouldn't stop him from trying, because that didn't stop him from trying to invade Ukraine when everyone already knew that that was such a suicidal thing for the Russians to do that no one really believed that they would even go through with invading Ukraine. And yet here we are over 2 years later, and they are still in the middle of a ground war in Ukraine, and they have not even gotten close to winning. Going off of that, in my opinion, I would have to believe that this is most likely just a threatening statement. But it is still a very serious statement at that, because you have to consider how both sides are working right now as far as the Russians and the West goes. The Russians are saying if an F-16 takes off from a Polish airfield, we'll obliterate that aircraft on the tarmac of that airfield, pretty much attacking Poland in the process. On the other hand, you have the United States, which just came out yesterday and did confirm, according to the Department of State, that they told Ukraine not to strike Russian oil refineries inside of the Russian Federation, although those two parties are directly at war, because that may lead to further provocation that may also affect the domestic elections here in the United States. So you have these two completely different, completely opposite ways of going about. Because if you can just say this stuff and it means nothing, why in the world is the United States not saying that we're going to nuke everyone into oblivion by tomorrow? Because we actually treat these statements like they're real statements. And the Russians treat these statements like they're nothing more than child's play. Like you can just threaten to pretty much start a third world war if you want to, and it's no big deal. And that's a big deal to me, the fact that they would even say something like that, because the United States weighs our words carefully, even when dealing with absolute idiots like Putin and Xi Jinping. But when they come out and they say something, they can say the most absolutely heinous, crazy things. Pretty much the start of a conventional war in terms of what he said they would do. And then everyone just goes, that's nothing serious, nothing crazy. Because I'm telling y'all this, if y'all heard a similar statement like that from the President of the United States, no matter who they were, every single one of y'all would be saying, oh my God, this guy is crazy. He's going to get us all killed. And I think that we need to look, I think we need to have that same kind of a standard when we talk about the Russians. We don't need to treat their absolutely bat crap crazy statements as just jokes. We need to actually treat them like they're serious, because the fact that someone would say that is nuts. That's like someone, that's like someone you think is a little crazy saying, oh man, I'm telling you, after I strip the copper out of this AC, I'm gonna murder someone. And then you go, he's just crazy, I wouldn't pay attention to that. I would go, wait a minute, what did you say? Like, run that by me one more time, because that would be a rational, normal thing to say. Now I will agree with y'all though. I think it's nothing more than hype talk by Putin. But at the same time, I feel like we should not be treating it that way on an official level and just blow it off, because that would be nuts to do something like that, especially considering that it is a direct threat to NATO security, what he said in that statement. Just like what Lukashenko said the other day about trying to push and invade the Suwalki Gap. That is a direct threat to NATO security, and whether they're saying that just to puff up their chests and sound tough, or whether they're really just saying it to say it, we need to treat that like as a serious threat. And so, with that, I hope that does address that well, in my opinion. But Matthew, do you have anything to add to that?
I would generally say not to blow off the threat that Russia might attack NATO, but me personally, I don't think that's an option really on the table for Putin until he sees that either his regime is in extreme danger of getting overthrown, or he sees that maybe Russia is going to go into a total collapse economically. That's the only two situations where I see that he might attack NATO. But outside of that, I think they're saving it for a last resort, because that would be devastating for Russia. And I think even Putin knows that. So I think for now, the risk of war is staying stable. It's not going up or down right now. But certainly if the war keeps going in Ukraine's favor, the risk will go up.
And I would have to say that's a very astute observation, Matthew. And I bet you're busy, because right now the live chat's flying. So I was like, I wonder if you can even answer this. Yeah, because I'm looking at the live chat right now, and it's literally just mental. If y'all want to know the actual number, we're getting like 90 live chats a minute, which means that we're getting about 1.5 every second. So Matthew is very busy trying to make sure that the live chat is running and under control. But with that, we're going to be moving on out of the Moscow news and quickly down south into the area of the northern Caspian Sea, as we got the report that several Tu-95s are flying in formation on their way down into the southern Caspian, the northern Caspian Sea, and moving into position, which is pretty much their launch area. From here, they will then transit across the Don region of the Russian Federation, and then they will start firing off their cruise missiles near to the area of the southeastern Sea of Azov, just northwest of Slovyansk na Kubani, where we saw the Ukrainians destroy an oil refinery on the southern end of the city, right around here. But beyond that, however, we are seeing that apparently another missile attack will be occurring on Ukraine again tonight, and it appears that the Russians are starting a very aggressive missile bombardment campaign of Ukraine, as this is occurring almost every other day or every day now, around the same time. But with that, we're going to be moving on from that report. Of course, the live reports of air attacks we'll probably have coming through as we're talking on the stream. But moving on from that and out of the area of the northern Caspian Sea, it's time for us to move over to Poland, to something that we talked about a little bit earlier today, but it was still bizarre nonetheless. And this is the dismissal of a Polish general. According to what we were able to get today, information-wise, Poland has dismissed General Yaroslaw Gromyszynski, I believe is how that's pronounced, from his position as commander of a European military body after the country's counterintelligence service launched an investigation into his security clearance. In recent months, he had been serving as part of the international assistance team for Ukraine in Wiesbaden, Germany, where he was involved in the training of Ukrainian soldiers. He has now been removed, and the explanation is unknown. We do not know why he was removed, and we do not know why the Polish military or the Polish government made this decision, but we have had people explain to us that he could have been dismissed for a myriad of things. For example, if you have a large amount of outstanding debts, as a commander at this level, that can jeopardize your security clearance and force you to be removed from your position because you pose a threat. You can be compromised because someone coming in and offering to pay off your massive debts will then have a more so a control over you in a way. So we don't really know why he was removed. It could have been for something mundane like outstanding debts. It could have been because he had connections with the Russian Federation. We don't really know. Those are really the two extremes, one side on the very innocent, one on the very not so innocent side, but we don't really know why the guy was removed. But it's been a massive question today with loads of people trying to figure out why this guy's gone. I mean, what's going on here? What's happening? You know, like what's this guy doing? I mean, look at him. He doesn't seem that bad. He just looks like a fellow wearing a beret and a little Polish army uniform.
I'll say that we should give the guy the benefit of the doubt because it does appear he has had a pretty good bit of military service in Poland from what I could tell from my research earlier today. And when I did report on it earlier today, I emphasized it very clearly that we're not sure exactly what it is that's been found, but clearly it's something disturbing enough to have him removed without the investigation concluding. So without further details, it's hard to tell. But I will say he did write a pretty lengthy, basically an innocent statement on Twitter. I saw it out today after I made the video. He is insisting that he is innocent. So I guess we'll have to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he is innocent until proven guilty. And I'm kind of curious at this point as to what he's been charged with or what the investigation is about. Because there are literally no details on it. But it could be something minor like the enforcer said. We simply just don't know yet.
And I've seen loads of people coming in with some really nutty theories. I mean, like not nutty, it's just like crazy ones. Like some people saying, you know, he had a mistress. Some people saying that he was selling artillery shells. There's a lot of people coming up with all kinds of ideas. I'm honestly not one to start ripping into someone because we don't know what the guy was removed for. It may have been something as innocent as he just had outstanding debts. The Polish military considered that to be a threat of that he could be compromised, and so they just removed him so they wouldn't have to worry about that later. So I would have to say we don't really know what is happening with the guy. We just know that he was removed from his position today rapidly and unceremoniously from what we can see on the public side of things. We don't know if this had a lot of planning in the background to have him removed or if this was brought up a lot, but still an interesting thing. Beyond that, however, we do know that that there is a little bit of a talk going on about the risk of a full-scale war. And there was actually a very interesting statement made today. I personally usually do not cover the statements of other people on this channel, you know, other military analysis groups and things like that, because really everyone is taking shots at what they think is going to happen, so we usually just don't read them. But today, an interesting statement was made by someone fairly high up there. A U.S. general said that the risk of a full-scale war with Russia is dropping because the war has passed over 2 years long. And a lot of y'all are really not agreeing with that statement. Many people are disagreeing, agreeing. There's a load of different ideas that y'all are coming up with. And I've got to ask y'all, what do y'all really think about that? Do y'all think that the war is actually decreasing its chances of becoming a full-scale conflict in Europe now that it's passed more than 2 years? Or is it actually increasing as the time goes by? Maybe because the Russians are getting more and more desperate as the war continuously drags on outside of their own control. Many people have had loads of different theories about this. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about that in the chat. But Matthew, what do you think about that? Do you think the chances of war are decreasing or increasing now that we passed the 2-year mark?
All right, and we asked everyone in the chat tonight, do you agree with the U.S. general that says the risk of full-scale war with Russia is dropping at the 2-year mark? And 45% said no, the risk of war is actually increasing, 32% said it is decreasing, and 12% said I need more info first. And for my opinion on the matter, I would say that that statement is probably not going to age well. I don't think that the risk is dramatically increasing at the moment, but it may in the future. But I know for a fact it's certainly not decreasing, especially with Russia coming out and making very charged statements about attacking Western air bases if they host F-16s for Ukraine's use. I would say that alone indicates that Russia is definitely not lowering the risk of war whatsoever. And the U.S. general that made that statement, I really don't know the guy who he is, to be perfectly honest with you. But I do see the Twitter post. I'm looking at it right now. And he said that I do sense that the risk of escalation is not as high as it was in the beginning. And that's a pretty vague statement, but I think it's a silly statement to make. It's really too premature to say that. But that's just me. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, in my opinion, the chances of this becoming a full-scale war is increasing with each passing day. Because we see that unlike that statement, the actual actions being taken by NATO and Russia are constantly showing that there is an escalation pretty much just constantly going on in the background. And because of that, I'm believing that we're probably closer to a full-out war now than we were at the very beginning. I think what the guy is working off of to make that statement is the public belief or the public fear that a full-scale war was going to begin. Because at the beginning of the war, that was constantly on people's minds. People were saying that on May 9th, because that's Victory Day in Russia, they were going to nuke Ukraine, or they were going to declare a full-scale war, or they were going to declare a war on NATO and invade the Baltics or something like that. And none of that ever came true, and people eventually started to stop saying things like that. And really, to be honest with y'all, the people who were saying that at the start, and I'm not saying like, average folks who believe these ideas, I'm saying the folks who kind of like propagated these theories in the first place, were pretty goofy. I mean, like, I don't really know how to go about that in a polite way, but to think that the Russians, like, this is a movie, like July, like the U.S. only does major things every year on the 4th of July, stuff like that. That was absolutely crazy stuff, and it was really pushing a lot of pandemonium at the beginning of the war, and people were more than happy to feed into it. A lot of people here on YouTube that were covering the war by that point, which really wasn't many of them, because many of them came in at the latter part of 2022 after they figured out they could get some virality off of it. But a lot of people that were around at the time were really pushing these ideas that the war was going to be a world war in a matter of months, and this was just the beginning of the war, and just wait, everyone, it's going to get a lot worse. But as that first year passed on, and then we started moving on into the second year, a lot of those people ended up sliding off and weren't really able to spread these kinds of crazy theories all that much like they had done in the past. And that's why I guess that general is making the statement that full-scale war seems far less likely now than at the beginning, is because the amount of people that are saying that it's going to be a full-scale war have greatly decreased in number, because a lot of them just weren't able to survive that first year, because you can only say that World War III is starting each day until eventually people get tired of it. So going off of that, I would have to say the chances of war now are probably higher, but once again, we're talking about higher as far as the single digits percentage chance, in my opinion. At the beginning of the war, it turning into a full-scale global conflict was like a 1.5% chance. Now we're up to like a 3 or 4% chance. I still think it's an incredibly low chance, because the Russians would be absolutely insane to try and go to war with the Western world. Not to say that they wouldn't do it, I'm just saying that even they would know that that is an absolutely insane thing to think or even try to do, is to go to war with the West. The Russians can't even fight Ukraine. Ukraine, on a military level, at the beginning of the war, according to the stats, was far worse off than the Russian army in terms of its size and its numbers. The only thing that it had that was better than the Russians was morale and training, and those were the only two things that they had that were better. Everything else was worse, and they've ended up getting beat nearly, and they're still fighting a war 2 years in against Ukraine. And I want to make this very clear, because this is something that people kind of lose focus on. Ukraine is not a military powerhouse. Ukraine is actually a fairly minor power as far as it goes. Well, a very small or insignificant power before the invasion of Ukraine as far as their military prowess goes. They're not one of the countries that you should actually fear in the world if they were to declare war on you. It would be more so like Belarus declaring war on you. In reality, it's just that the Ukrainian army was about 3 times larger than the Belarusian one at the beginning of the war. People don't get that, because we've been watching the Ukrainians beat the hell out of what everyone believed to be the second best army in the world for the latter part of 2 years now, and moving on into 3 years now. Nobody thinks that the West would be able to do the same thing, because no one's ever seen the Western world go to war, and the last time that people saw that was the Gulf War in 1991. And people don't even talk about the Gulf War that much, because we steamrolled the Iraqis that had the 3rd largest army in the world at that time, just behind the Soviet Union, now the Russian Federation by that point, and the United States. Iraq had the 3rd largest, and it was actually pretty big. I mean, it was pretty well equipped too. A lot of people always think that the Iraqis are a joke, because they imagine Iraq as the 2003 Iraq that we invaded a second time. The reason why Iraq was such a joke in 2003, when we invaded them the second time, is because we had completely obliterated them in the first Gulf War in 1991. And that is why I think it's absolutely crazy that people don't get it wrapped in their minds that a global conflict with the Russians, the West would win that almost decisively. We already saw that war get won against Iraq. The Gulf War, was the Gulf War, and the best explanation I can give was the best Soviet technology that could have been provided at the time going up against the best American technology that the 90s could provide. And we ended up obliterating the really Russian technology, Soviet technology back then to a degree that is unbelievable. Let me go and get y'all really quickly the stats on the Gulf War, because this is something important to talk about. Let me see here. So, loads of pictures. You can see the Highway of Death here, right down there in the bottom left. But beyond that, I got to get y'all to the actual stat sheets. So, the strength of the coalition was around 950,000. It was close to 1 million. The Iraqis had more than 1 million. They had 5,500 tanks. They outnumbered the amount of tanks that the coalition had almost 2 to 1. They also outnumbered the amount of artillery that the coalition had by a factor of 50%. It looks like I'm maybe getting that a little bit off, but the coalition did have nearly twice as many aircraft, actually more like 2.5 times as many aircraft as the Iraqis were able to muster. Out of all of this, the amount of casualties and losses that were sustained at the end of the Gulf War, and I'll show you why I'm saying that these people were top-notch fighters at their time, or at least Iraq was one of the best equipped at the time. The coalition only lost 13,488 wounded and killed. The Iraqis lost anywhere in between 175,000 to 300,000 wounded and killed in a war that only lasted 6 months. So you got to put that into perspective, that is a pretty damn bad war that you're fighting right there against a Western-led coalition with Western technology of 90s vintage versus what we would say today is actually modern Russian equipment. Because Russian equipment has not progressed that far since 1991. It's really all the same. And I'll be trying to see if I can show y'all some pictures. Here we go. Here are the Lions of Babylon. This is an Iraqi tank guard unit, pretty much. And you can see right here that they're all using T-72A model main battle tanks. Right now, the Russian Federation is using a large amount of T-72A main battle tanks in Ukraine, or the slightly modified T-72B, which only adds explosive reactive armor tiles of the Contact 1 variant, which don't really provide that much armor protection. So pretty much a T-72A. This is pretty much a mainstay at this point of the Russian armed forces inside of Ukraine, just to give you all an idea of what we were going up against in 1991. Moving on from that, we can also see the M84, that's literally just a T-72A, just by a different name. We can also see, let me see if I can find y'all some more equipment that the Iraqis were using, or at least some pictures of it, to give y'all a little bit of a concept at the time. Let's see here. Oh yeah, but they did have Scud launchers, which are pretty much an older version of the Iskander. Best way to explain that, we ended up shooting down all Scuds that were fired during the war. And then on top of that, let me see if I can find something else. Here is a T-55, many of these are commonly used inside of Ukraine, that has also been destroyed. You can see time and time again, and here's a T-55 again, destroyed by the coalition. The Russians are using these a fairly large amount right now. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find y'all anything extra. Here's a here's an Iraqi column, may as well be a Russian one in Ukraine at this point, and notice the equipment that comprises this column that was advancing down this highway. BMP-1s, which are almost the only APC that's in the Russian army at this point beyond a few BMP-2s, and some T-55s and what appears to possibly be a T-62 right here in the middle of the column. Going off of that again, making us very clear, this means that this is pretty much, as far as we know in Ukraine, a modern fighting Russian column that would be advancing on a town like Novoprokopivka right now, and it was obliterated by the coalition with ease. The Gulf War is literally a glimpse into the present day that happened in the past of what would occur if the Russian armed forces tried to fight against a Western-led coalition. This would be the actual casualty list. And when we divide this down, let's just go with the lowest end number of casualties for the Iraqis that we believe that they sustained in the Gulf War, which is 175,000. And then we'll divide that by 13,488, which is the amount of casualties that the coalition suffered. That means that for every one casualty that the coalition suffered, the Iraqis suffered approximately 13 casualties each. Going off of that, it's very clear that a conflict with the West, with NATO, even right now, would not go well for the Russian army. It would not go well for the Belarusians and the Russians combined. It would look a lot like the Gulf War would. And this is
I just got to say, getting back to that original statement that was made by the U.S. general, that unless the U.S. general believes that Russia is simply going to pack the crap up and go home if Ukraine wins, and they're not going to cause a major, huge problem, which is apparently what his statement was premised on, that he believes Russia is simply going to go home if they lose. I don't think they are. And I think based on that fact alone, the risk of escalation will only go up in the future because Russia is not going to accept defeat.
And you know something, that's actually an interesting point. There is a reason why we would believe that they probably would leave, and that's because of the Soviet-Afghan War, which lasted for 10 years. The West ended up getting heavily involved in providing equipment to the Mujahideen, which later morphed into the Taliban, which we then had to fight against by invading Afghanistan in 2001. But really quickly, to take y'all down, and this is the Soviet-Afghan War. I got to make sure to get that correct. So to move us really quickly all the way down to the withdrawal, which happened in 1989, let me see if I can get y'all that. So let's see here, 1989. So from January 1987 to February of 1989, the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan. There was a large amount of Western support that was involved in this, particularly in the provision of man-pads, such as the Stinger. And I hope that I can find y'all a picture of an Afghan using a Stinger, because this was a very big deal at the time and caused a lot of tension in between the United States government and the Soviet government, because the West was clearly providing weapons that were giving the Afghans an upper hand. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. So this is more so of a painting, but it kind of gets the idea across. And let me see if I can get it a little bit further up close. This is a book cover, but what this is a FIM 92 Stinger, and we were providing a lot of these to the Mujahideen by proxy through Pakistan, so that way they would be able to combat the Soviets and pretty much push them out of Afghanistan. There was a lot of Western involvement in that war, in the Soviet-Afghan War. Instead of the Russians acting like spoiled children and nuking Afghanistan because they were losing the war, they actually just ended up withdrawing from it. So we do have an idea that if the Russians did lose this war, there is a chance that they could just withdraw from it with their tail tucked between their legs and not progress any farther. But I feel like the Russian leadership right now is a lot more different than the leadership that we saw under Gorbachev in the late 80s when the Soviet Union was withdrawing from Afghanistan. Putin is not the same leader Gorbachev was. Gorbachev was a more it is, as far as the philosophical side of things goes, not talking about a political lens when I say this word, but Gorbachev was more of a libertarian or a liberal leader by allowing free speech and criticism inside the Soviet Union, and also breaking down a lot of the way that the authoritarian Soviet structure worked. He was a lot more liberal in that form than any other leader in Soviet or Russian Imperial or Russian Federation history. Putin is very different than that. Putin is probably one of the more cutthroat leaders that we have seen. Of course, not to the level of Lenin or Stalin, but he's certainly probably number 3 on that list of the most cutthroat modern Russian or Soviet leaders that we've seen in the past century. So going off of that, I would have to say that, in my opinion, there is a chance that if the Russians were losing this war and it looked like it was inevitable, they may do something incredibly drastic or bizarre, not something that we would have seen in the Soviet-Afghan War during their withdrawal in 1989. But I hope I was able to address that theory somewhat well, but that kind of brings us back into talking about, do y'all think that the Russians are actually going to try and escalate massively for some reason, one reason or another, because they're losing the war, because they're trying to blame Crocus on Ukraine? Are they going to try and escalate it? Matthew, what do you think?
I personally think they're going to escalate it no matter what in the future, because they really have no option, because they're losing right now. And unless they keep escalating and making things more and more serious, where they use more and more weaponry, call up more troops, I think they're going to lose even harder. And he knows he can't afford that, so they have to escalate. They're forced to.
And also, Matthew, I know that we pretty much asked that question as well, because we got a very interesting, very concerning statement today by the diplomatic envoy from Kazakhstan to Ukraine, requesting that Ukrainian citizens evacuate the area around Kharkiv and Odessa because of rising escalations. And what were people thinking about that?
So on that call by Kazakhstan to tell the citizens to leave Kharkiv and Odessa immediately due to security threats, which were really unnamed, they didn't go into specifics on that, 48% said Russia is about to escalate massively, 24% said it's merely a precautionary warning, and 19% said it sounds serious, but I need more info. And on this one, I can only assume that's because they've gotten some sort of information that Russia is indeed about to move heavily into those regions, into Kharkiv and Odessa, even harder than before. So that's probably the reason why. I saw some people speculating that it was because that maybe there was some kind of ethnic problems with it or something like that, but I really don't think that's the real reason, and I'm personally with the 48%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, in my opinion, I would believe that there has to be some kind of a reason they're saying that. Usually embassies don't make statements, or diplomatic envoys don't make statements saying leave an area unless there is some sort of credible information that they are privy to that would lead them to believe that something bad is about to happen. I would have to believe that the Russians have some kind of a plan on a mass bombardment campaign of Kharkiv or Odessa in the future, one that we've never really seen before so far, at least on the scale. And so that's why the Kazakhstani envoys are telling people to try and leave these areas, because it does sound like Russia is probably about to escalate massively. If anyone would know that information, it probably would actually be the Kazakh government, because the Kazakh government is fairly tied in relationship-wise with the Russian Federation. Not that they're very friendly like the Belarusians are, it's just that they're kind of within that Ruski Mir that the Russians love to talk about, where they're privy to information that others would not be here in the West. And so I believe that their statements would have to come with a decent amount of credibility behind it, and probably comes from a legitimate point of concern on the part of the Kazakh government. But with that, I hope that does address that pretty big question fairly well, at least as far as what the Kazakh government said today. But it's time for us to start moving on into Ukraine proper and start talking about the actual battles and fights that have been happening around the front lines today and what those have ended up resulting in. But before we get to that, I want to make sure to address a couple of questions. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, and our first question of the night is actually going to go to a first-time super chatter. It is Samuel Winskog, who is apparently from Sweden. He throws in a 1,000 Swedish kroner, which is massive support, and huge shout out to you, Samuel, for coming in strong on the first super chat and supporting our work. And he says, "Sup, boys?" And he spelled boys the good old-fashioned way. I love to see it. And what's up, Samuel? And thank you very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
Now, what's up, buddy? But still, thank you so much, Samuel, for the massive support. That 1,000 Swedish kroner translates exactly into $93.65. So thank you so much for the massive support and helping this channel to keep on running. That is unbelievable. And what's up? I hope you're doing well tonight. I love to see that your profile picture is a flag of Sweden. That is really cool. And also, welcome to the Cool Kids Club here in NATO. It's a fun place. It's a great place. And not only that, the Swedes have some pretty cool weapons. So I hope to see those starting to spread around NATO a little bit more here in the future. But beyond that, thank you so much for the massive support and enjoying this channel so much. It is your first time supporting, and that is absolutely incredible that you would support us that massively your first time. And of course, it helps to make this channel possible. So I can't thank you enough because you make this pretty much this dream for Matthew and me a reality due to your support. And so thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you for helping this channel to keep rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our second one is going to go to Flash1, who throws in a $20 donation as well. And Flash is, of course, a longtime channel legend. And thank you very much. He says, "My dad once told me, you can't control what other people do," and he puts in the hot dog. And he says, "As long as you're a bit right in life, and it shows, you both are by people watching and all the likes, and I love to see it. And please take a live chat question."
And I gotta thank you so much for the massive amount of support, Flash1, one of our Australian viewers, by the way. And I gotta say, you can't control what other people do, Flash. You can't control it. Hot dog. Extra relish. But beyond that, we do our part right. That's one thing that I know, no matter what happens, if this channel was to die, which it never will, because the Lee Spring Army will never die. Put an LSA in the chat if you agree. But that's one thing I know. The channel will never die, especially with the kind of growth that we've been having over the past month. The channel is nowhere close to dying. In fact, it is more alive now than it ever has been. To let y'all in on a little secret, this channel has gotten 6 million views just this month. That's not including the rest of the days left in the month, which there are a few. We've already gotten 6 million views this month. The highest viewed month in this channel's history before that was all the way back in July last year at 5.1 million. So this channel is getting more views now. It's getting more subscribers now than really any other point in its history. And so I know that it's never going to die, but if it did, you know, let's just say hypothetically that it was going down the drain and it was going to die, one thing I know is that we did everything the right way. We fundraised the right way. We ran the show the right way. We did things the way I believe they should be done. There's nothing that I have done in the course of running this channel that I have ever regretted. Even when it came back to hurt us a little bit, especially back in October when we tried to defend ourselves against a hot dog boy, and then half of all the YouTube came in that guy's defense, and then figured out later that he wasn't that great of a guy because they all ended up stabbing him in the back anyways. But beyond that, I didn't care if that was going to affect us back then or not, because as long as we're doing what's right, we can't really care about what the consequences of that are. We can just do what we can do. And that's something that's always big to me in running this channel and doing this, is that we're doing what I believe is right. And I got to thank you so much once again for saying that it shows in the way we run the show. I try my best to make sure that we're as authentic on air as we are off air. We're like, the way I talk right now, it's not that much different if you hear me off air. And also the way I speak, you know, we try not to cuss like sailors. And I feel like we do a pretty good job of that. I feel like we don't cuss a lot on the stream either, so I'm very happy for that, because a lot of people cuss like sailors out there. But I gotta say thank you so much for those kind words, Flash, and helping this channel to keep on running. We love to see that people continue to enjoy this channel and continue to enjoy us running it, and we will make sure to grab a live chat in honor of your super chat, Flash One. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and the live chat question is going to go to Paul Schultz, who's also one of our Morse code decoders, by the way. He says, is a full-scale war required to end the war?
I would say no. I would say that this war can be ended by just keeping it contained inside of Ukraine, but I think that relies on Ukraine getting more support than what they are right now. So with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well. Zelensky actually talked about that today, and the reason why I'm trying to address this one a little bit short is because we're actually going to get into in-depth talks about support and what kind of support Ukraine says they need here fairly soon in the news. Is one of the next things we're about to cover. But still, thank you so much for sponsoring that live chat, and thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope I was able to address that well, because I believe it can remain contained in Ukraine as long as the support that Ukraine needs continues to flow in. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Flash One. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the last question of this channel, of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the Ukraine war news.
Indeed. And the last one is going to go to Say What, who put in a $20 donation. And Say What, thank you very much for that support. And he's saying something big. He says, I think Putin gets more dangerous the worse things get for him, and he has himself boxed in. And Say What, that is exactly what I believe as well. I think the closer it gets to Russia losing the war, the more desperate and also the more extreme Putin is going to get when it comes to the tactics. And also, that's also the time he's going to start treating the Russian people that much worse, to try to basically do a last-ditch attempt to save his ego and also his pride by throwing all of his people under the bus to go in and try to save his glory in Ukraine. So I agree with you 100%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would agree with you. I think the Russians are getting more dangerous as the war keeps on progressing, not in Russia's favor. I actually have heard... I heard the statement. I've seen these statements largely disappear now that the war is 2 years old. But I heard the statement the other day that the Ukrainians were getting beat by the Russians 9-1, and they were just getting obliterated. And I was like, that's a weird statement, because it's like, if they were, how had they not lost the war yet? You know, this war was not supposed to last that long. No war that the United States has been involved in outside of Vietnam has really ended up being this long where we were directly involved in it. If you conclude the part where we were in Korea, the Korean War was really only active from 1950 to 1952, which is just about 3 years. And then from 1952 to 1953, it pretty much entered a state of stagnation and almost ceasefire on the front lines as everyone tried to figure out what was going to happen and how Korea was going to exist from that point forward. So the only war in America's history beyond World War II that has lasted this long was the war in Vietnam. And I know some people are about to say, what about Iraq and Afghanistan? I don't count that, because those were more so occupations after the first few initial months, which were the actual invasion. Then it was more so of an occupation peacekeeping kind of a deal, and that's not exactly a war. That's just more so kind of an intervention sort of a deal, and I don't really count that as being a part of the actual war. But beyond that, I would have to say I think he's going to get a lot more dangerous. He is really boxed in on the economic level, the military level, the diplomatic level. On every level, the Russians are boxed in a pretty bad way. And the only people who are kind of indifferent to them are the Chinese. So I have a feeling that as we watch these next few years go on, even if the Russians back out, don't do anything rash, and they end up losing the war in Ukraine, they're probably going to end up becoming a large vassal or a puppet of the Chinese, because they're going to be so heavily economically tied to them, and China being the disproportionately larger power economically, the Russians are really going to have no say in future affairs and may as well just follow the whims of China. So, with
Also,
that,
speaking of which, Enforcer, speaking about, Putin throwing his people under the bus as the war keeps going on, did you hear that he's wanting to introduce a tax, a new tax on the Russians who are already dirt poor, basically, a 13% flat tax to basically fund the war because they're going broke because they're spending at least $300 million a day to fight the war in Ukraine. That's something he just announced today. And of course, you're not going to see the Russian people speak out against that because they're going to not want to go to the prison for it. But that's just wild to me that he's willing to put even a larger load on the people who are already struggling in Russia. And even though they may or may not support the war publicly, he's just throwing his people under the bus as we speak.
a 13% flat tax. That is huge, actually. If that's for every citizen in Russia, that is huge. That is 13% of the revenue that the Russians make going straight into the Russian coffers. That has not already made it there as of right now. That is crazy. That is actually nuts. I didn't hear about that today. But if that is really the case and they're trying to move that forward, that says how badly they're doing on an economic level in this war. Is that they're having to start pretty much beating up the poor to keep the war running. They're beating the nickels out of the poor to put it into the slot machine and see if they can end up winning a jackpot. It's just not going to happen because the game is rigged against them. There's no way that they can win the war in Ukraine. But still, that is crazy. I actually did not hear about that. That's news to me. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you that made this thing possible, say what, we wouldn't be able to talk about the news like we are tonight and keep this thing rolling. But with that, it is time for us to move on from this question segment. Before we do, there are a large amount of new people here tonight. There is currently 7.6 thousand of y'all here live. And I just want y'all to know that if you do throw in a super chat and you're new to the channel, we do answer all of them. Every single super chat, no matter how big or how small they are addressed by the end of the night. And we also grab live chats as well. We do answer questions for free. That's something that's always a big question on this channel. But if you throw in a super chat, your question is prioritized over the live chats that were just thrown in, because the super chats are the only thing that helps this channel to keep running. This is an ad-free, sponsor-free live stream. We do not run anything along those lines on this stream, and we never will. And so the only way that we support this is through super chats. So we owe everything to the folks who do super chat and support the channel, and that's why we make sure to prioritize their questions first and thank everyone who super chats, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to make this live stream a reality. But with that, I hope that does address that well, just in case if you're new to this channel and you don't really know how it works yet. But it's time for us to move on into the rest of the news. Moving on into the air defense news that was right outside of Kyiv, is in the area of Brovary today, we were able to hear that the Ukrainian air defense successfully shot down 26 Shahed 131s and 136s overnight. An incredibly successful shoot down record, and great to see that they're continuing to keep the skies of Ukraine safe. Moving on from that and down into the area around the Free Russian Army, we were able to see that actions are still continuing here, as the Russians are trying to stop the flow of Free Russian Army supplies as they bomb Velika Pisarivka inside of Ukraine today. And we were able to see that these Fab glide bombs made it onto the town, showing that apparently there is some kind of Russian Air Force activity that is possible in the area. It's just that it's rarely ever used. Bada boom, right there in the middle of the town. It's a Fab 500 glide bomb, about 1,100 pounds of explosives. And that's the end of the clip. Moving on from that and into our next bit of news, we were also able to see that down in the area of Shebekino, there was some footage that came out today from the Russian Volunteer Corps, which is a part of the Free Russian Army. Here is the clip. We got to mute it, but here we go. We can see the Free Russian Army setting up a post for their drone to operate from. when you see them taking the drone off and flying it on its way to go and try and target Russian armed forces in the area. And that's the end of the clip.
Wait a minute, that was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Man, I was just ramping up for my Bliat impression, man. I was just ramping up.
Well,
it just ended.
I think you missed out. I think you missed out on that one simply. But still, nice to see the Free Russian Army in the area and continuing on their actions. Moving on from that and down into the location unknowns, as Matthew has the rug completely pulled out from under him because of the video length, we got to see that Zelensky said that Ukraine needs about 5 to 7 Patriot missile systems beyond the ones they currently have to be able to defend the skies over Ukraine with nearly a 100% success rate. I'm going to just let the clip play. This was provided by United 24, and here's the clip.
5-7 систем ППО Петріот від Сполучених Штатів Америки захистять сьогодні індустріальні платформи в Україні, для того, щоб у нас була робота, були школи, щоб у нас була можливість працювати, а дітям ходити в школу, і розблокують небо. Повірте, будуть кроки вперед.
And that's the end of the clip right there. But we can see here that Zelensky is talking about the kind of weapons and support that the Ukrainians would require to keep the war going and well in their favor. And he says that they would need around 5 to 7 Patriot air defense systems. Just in the provision of those systems alone, that would be around $5 to $7 billion, as each Patriot system costs $1 billion to field without ammunition. Ammunition is around $1 million per missile fired. So you can get the idea that running those systems would be quite expensive, and the aid package just for the minimum amount of Patriots alone would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of $6 billion to $7 billion to provide them with all of the Patriot batteries and also enough money or enough ammunition to try and keep them running. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we were also able to see a picture of some training of a soldier in the 154th Separate Mechanized Brigade. This was pretty cool because we got a rare sighting of a Ukrainian BRDM-2, a light armored car used during the Soviet times for reconnaissance, and we can also see that this guy here has a exquisitely rare gun. This is a high-quality AKM. These are very rare in Ukraine at this point. We usually see the AK-74 being really the only AK that's in service these days, but this guy has a full-on AKM in 7.62 by 39. It looks like it might even be a Polish one because of the lightning cut in the front part of the receiver. Actually, no. Actually, that's the glint of the glove, the bottom part of the glove right there. So sadly, I cannot tell if it's a Soviet AKM or a Polish one. Nevertheless, it is still a high-quality AKM. It looks really good. It's got the Bakelite in it, and also that BRDM2 is pretty cool. By the way, if y'all are wondering, how can I get a BRDM2? You can actually get one for about $20,000 US. They're not that expensive. But moving on from that, and out of that little bit of news, it's time for us to move on to the next one, where we got to see the Ukrainians using an airburst drone. And hearing some really cool music, too. But we can see the drone flying in. And bada boom, jagga jagga. Bada boom, jagga jagga. And we see some more Russians walking. And this airburst drone's about to just come down and burst all over them. And that's the end of the clip. But very nice to see. And wonderful to know that they're doing their thing. Just keeping it up, just keeping it rolling. You know what I mean? It's great. It's wonderful. Moving on from that, we got to see the Russian casualty report over the past 24 hours. Ooh!
Oh, juicy, man. 18. Wait a minute. It's 1-800. Destroy that Bobcat. Look at that, man. 1-800. Love to see it. Love to see it.
1-800 destroy that Bobcat. That's 1-800 destroy that Bobcat. But I absolutely impressive. So I gotta say, this is wonderful. I love to see that 6 Bobcat skid steers were destroyed, and it's great to know that they were able to inflict that kind of damage. Not only that, 780 Russian soldiers were wiped out, along with 21 armored personnel carriers, 56 supply trucks, 10 main battle tanks, 32 artillery systems, 22 drones, 2 MLRSs, 2 cruise missiles, and an anti-aircraft warfare system. Overall, this was really impressive. And I got to say, it's wonderful to know that the Ukrainian defenders are keeping up such an outstanding job. And not only that, continuing to inflict high casualties onto the Russian armed forces. Moving on from this casualty report, it's time for us to get into the frontline news. The frontline news that y'all all crave, and we got loads of it from the Northeast down to Crunky. And it's time for us to get up into that northeastern news. Of course, the battlefield did not progress in any way, shape, or form in this area as far as frontline movements, but we did get to see that the Russians were continuing to take on more casualties, with one Russian diving off of an APC that was being attacked by a drone. Here comes the drone. We can see the APC right up there skirting down the road. Skirt, skirt, skeet, skeet. We see the coming on in. A little bit closer now.
This is the Punisher sword, by the way.
And look at this Russian dude.
Dear.
He went, oh, bled, it's a drone. Yeet. Oh, what the hell?
Oh, yeah, I think he stubbed his toe.
Oh, man. Dude, I don't think he dived off of the BMP more so than he dived onto the other side of the BMP's slat armor, face first on his teeth. Look at that. Yeah, he didn't make it off of the BMP. He just smacked his teeth into the side skirt at the top. But moving on from
He's
that,
probably going to get a nice rug burn from that tread. Like, it looks like he probably got like hung off the side of it or something. Does it look like he got snagged when he tripped?
man, he got more than snagged. He got bagged, you know what I mean? But moving on from that and down into the area of Krasnoyarsk, we also got to see an attack on Russian forces happening down here with a drone from the 109th Mountain Brigade, the Edelweiss. The Edelweiss is a flower that you can find in the Alps, by the way. They actually had to make it illegal for you to pick the Edelweiss because of a song that was made in like the 1950s, and people went up into the Alps and literally almost picked the Edelweiss into oblivion. It just ceased to nearly exist. But in case y'all are wondering what the Edelweiss looks like, this is the flower right here. And I'll make sure, there we go. There we go, that's the Edelweiss.
Edelweiss. And why do people want to pick this again?
Because there was some song, it was like some romance song, and this guy had a guitar, and he was like, Edelweiss, Edelnice, and all that shit. And so everyone went, oh my god, I gotta get that. So, like, you know, it was the age of jet travel, and people from America, because that's where the song was popular, were traveling to Europe for some of the first times ever in large numbers. So a lot of them went to Switzerland. They would go up there and they'd climb up into the Alps, because these flowers only grow at altitudes higher than, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 feet. They climb up there and they just start picking them. I mean, like, they'd pick the hell out of these things until they almost ceased to exist. They started to become an endangered species of flower, so they had to make it illegal and a felony to pick these things, and now the flower survives into the present day because of those conservation efforts. But another interesting thing is that the Edelweiss is actually a universal symbol in Europe for mountain infantry. The Gebirgsjäger of the German army actually still use the Edelweiss as their symbol.
Is that right? And also, I'm seeing people say sound of music is not right, sound of silence.
Sound of silence. If it's softly gleaming.
Like somebody said the sound of music. Which one is it? So which one's right? The sound of music, the sound of silence?
It's sound of music. It's sound of music. That's what it is. But moving on. Also, Matthew, if you want to notice this, speaking of the Edelweiss being a universal symbol, there's a symbol of the 109th Mountain Assault Brigade, and it's actually an Edelweiss right there.
Oh, what do you know? They're also stealing it digitally.
That's it, dude. The Swiss are going to come and arrest them. Mr. Dick said, "Dude, it was in the Sound of Music." Hey, man, I only know so much, man. You can't count on me to know that stuff, Paulie. You know what I mean? Melody Francis.
Man, it's the sound of music, the sound of silence, or the sound of loud.
And then Melody Francis said, the Edelweiss was popular with the Nazis, too. Everyone says everything was popular with the Nazis. The thing is that the Nazis stole a whole bunch of symbols from other people, and then they just became known to have them. Like the Edelweiss is a symbol that was used by the Austro-Hungarians, the Imperial German Army. It was used by the French. It was used by the Russians. It was used by everyone before World War II in World War I. And then World War II comes around. Then some German units have the Edelweiss because it's a holdover from Prussian times, from World War I times, and from Weimar times, and then everyone wants to all of a sudden go, it's a Nazi thing. And I get so tired of that because the Nazis like ruined like a million different symbols that really were completely innocent, just universal symbols, and then turned them into just raw evil. So it is not a Nazi thing, but they did use it a lot, the Germans did in World War II. But moving on from that, it's time for us to get on down into that Bakhmut area. Because y'all know Bakhmut be bumping, and Bakhmut is one hell of a battlefield. We can see that over the past 24 hours, not a damn thing has changed in this area. We did get to see that a Russian T-72 was destroyed down here, and keep in mind, folks, The Iraqis were using T-72s in the Gulf War, and what happened to them? Toasty. That's what happened.
Toast. Oh my God.
All right. Oh. Little violent explosion. A rapid explosion, for that matter.
Let it burn, блядь. Don't send in that French toast thing to come in and say, put the fire out, блядь. Don't send him in. Don't let him around the kids either. Keep him away.
Oh, блядь. But anyways, moving on from that and on to our next clip a little bit further down. We got a lot of news out of Avdiivka today. I'm going to be showing you all this battlefield. So here's what it looks like over the past 24 hours. It looks like the Russians have made some minor movements forward. Let me make sure. It looks like they were able to move forward about half a field in Berdichi and a couple of yards, maybe near the area of Orlivka perhaps, but not that much in most areas. But we did get to see a lot of clips, starting off with our first one of some Russians being targeted and knocked out in the area of Stepove.
Geez, Stepove is pretty blasted.
Yeah, Stepove is just blasted. Infernal, even. And we can see the Russians wandering around through the ruins of Stepove. This guy is apparently playing some kind of a flute or something up here, I'm guessing.
He's trying to call it those rats.
Yeah, he's doing so like that. But we can see them trying to move on into a basement. He's like, oh, what is that? And then he got folded like an omelet. And then he gets back up. And then
just brushing it off. He said, walk it off, блядь.
He said, let's go into this brightly colored doorway here where they could easily see us going in and hiding here. And then the Ukrainians went, big mistake. And they start walking in the drones. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, dang, man. That thing went in fast. Like, that was so fast going in that little small door opening.
Man, it was so classic. But that's the end of
Crazy.
That's the end of the clip. But anyways, that's the end of the clip from the 47th Brigade, showing them doing their good work. Moving on from that and into our next clip in Berdichi, we also got to see a Bradley in operation in the town of Boydichi. Check it out. We can see the Bradley's 25mm shells hitting right down here at the top of the video on the end of the street.
Сейчас арта працює. Міномети включилися. І Бредлік проїхав. Це наша арта. Бачите, Бредлік доїхав почти до підерів.
I mean, they're just laying it on them.
Конкретна робота, зараз там беха піде.
What's happening over there? What's going on?
Man, in the meanwhile, there's something in the background going, sound like a rat eating some like crackers or something like that. It's like, what the hell is that noise?
У наш Бредлік тільки що, блядь, беху спалив. Підерську.
You hear that?
He's talking into the camera kind of weird, too.
Красавчик.
They're targeting the Russians down the street and they're just hitting from the 25mm.
He's seen too much.
They're killing all of them. I really like to watch this. I sit here and imagine what it would be like to be in the Bradley and these guys there.
It's just like, oh, it's just like, I don't know. It's a little quiet. He's still back there. And there's a rat chewing on a cracker or something in the background still. Well, that's the end of the clip. And nice to see that those Russians ended up getting had. Moving on from that, we're going into our next clip inside of Avdiivka, where we got to see more Russians getting hit by an FPV drone. These were hiding behind a APC. It looks like a BMP-3, honestly. But apparently this was enough escalate that they actually started to play the rave music for this one. So we can see the Russians here deciding to make a break for it. And there they go.
Charlie Chaplin music. Or the Benny Hill. Ding, 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 ding.
Boom, boom.
Give me a copyright strike for that. Come on.
And we see
right there, like that's stupid. Like go right in the doorway. It's like you're literally right there in the doorway. Come on.
All right, Pasha, break at the Imari. We have to see what we have to eat today.
Oh, thank God, we're in the only building left standing. The Ukrainians will never guess we're here, bliat.
Oh, yeah, they put up a piece of cardboard in the door. They're safe now.
Oh. They said close for business. Come back later.
Look, the cardboard has a face in it. Uh-oh.
Oh,
my Lord.
Man, those Ukrainians are crazy good with that FPV piloting. Like, the fact they were able to get that over that board, like, right through the roof like that was nuts.
Dude, you see that thing like wiggle its way in through the opening? Like it hit the bricks and actually knocked some dust off. Look, oh my lord, that was actually really good right there. Oh, and here comes one of them.
Oh man, he's oh.
He a little smoky.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
He's like, Pavel?
Catchy.
Pavel, are you still in there, blade? He's like, okay, see you, Pavel. He just goes wandering away.
He spilled his ketchup from lunch.
And he's just walking away. I mean, he's all good. House, on the other hand, is not that good.
Well, there was two group before they went in and then turned into one group. Bliat, walk away.
You know, Matthew, they really are following the training in this area because the two clips we've seen, both of the Russians were in the group. But moving on from that and into the town of Orlivka, we also get to see the 2nd Infantry of the 3rd Brigade fighting in the town. Check this out. This is pretty cool. You see them moving on in? We see them trying to do some planning while under fire. Now moving while laying down covering fire. We see artillery coming in as well. Now see one Ukrainian climbing out of the building as they continue to lay down covering fire into the windows. We hear more artillery coming in. We hear the firefights going on.
Well, the Russians are holed up in the 2nd floor of that house.
Apparently so.
Damn, it's a bad spot to get stuck in.
Пидор хуярит гранатами в нас, блядь, с пулеметом сидит, не можем выкурить, как приняли. Федя, я пытался с ним побазарить, этот долбоёб не сдается, я ему раз 5 крикнул нахуй.
We now hear the shelling continue. And on my mama, I have not shown this one before.
Yeah, I've never seen this one.
Yeah, I saw someone say we showed up before. As nuh-uh. I would know, and we have not. Man, someone's really getting a kick out of the explosions outside from the mortar fire. They're like a little mortar gets like 30 yards away from them, and they go, what? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, Navy. Oh, dear.
Дуда, по нам PPV очень плотно отработала, как принял.
That was close. You now see them moving out of the house and out into the open again to start trying to maneuver around that house in front of them. But it appears that they've obliterated the house because that's the same house from earlier and the roof is gone.
I think they got him.
I think they did.
Why have to pick them off if you can just level the whole house? That's a better idea. And also throw a grenade for good measure.
I think they're really clearing these guys out. But that's the end of the clip right there. And we can, of course, see that the 2nd Mechanized Infantry, I don't even know what unit level size that was, but it's the 3rd Brigade, is still fighting around the area and doing good work. And they're also getting supported by the M109s that are a little bit behind the lines. Here's a clip from one of those fellows. Check it out.
Давай!
Oh!
So.
Nice. But with that, that's the end of the clip. Just wonderful to see. Love to see it. We always are happy to see it. And we're going to be moving on down into the area of Novomikhailivka, where we also got to see that a Russian tank was destroyed around here. The Russians have not been able to advance in this area. They've still been stopped dead in their tracks, but we did get to see one of their tanks getting knocked out. Thug it up! Thug it up! And we see the tank down there roasting up.
You know something, when you said two group, it just clicked in my head. The Russians are probably going to introduce three group before long.
You know, you got a point, Matthew. That would be revolutionary right there if they did that.
Mm-hmm. If two group is failing, three group. You can't fail with three groups. Send three in.
Yeah, send 3 of them in. No, 4, Matthew. But that might be too.
No, actually, send in 10. Send in 10. Actually, send them all in. Actually,
F it. Send the army. It'll just run everyone in.
Send them all. That'll increase the return on investment with the drones blowing up. So that way, just instead of getting 2 guys, you get 10 as BOGO today.
2 chairs. 2 chairs. Whoa! Oh my lord!
Buy one get 10.
What?
I said, buy one, get 10.
Yeah, why
Good
not?
deals.
Yeah,
Ukraine has the best stores.
The best deals, the greatest stores. Absolutely wonderful. Wow, that is getting toasty down there. Gee, Matthew, with a campfire like that, you can't get cold. Pigeon
never
forage.
cold.
Now I feed my pigeons Fiji water and make them drop bombs on the Russian asses. But with that, that's the end of the clip. Nice to see and wonderful to get a special cameo from Mike Tyson. Not Mike Tyson. But anyways, with that, we got to see the Ukrainians attacking a Russian bunker here in this clip. Oh, excuse me. We see one of the drones up there just hovering above the bunker. And oh my heavens, there are Russians all over. Wow, that thing looks like a bird nest that's on fire down there. Look at that.
Oh, dear.
Oh, deer. Well, call that fire birdies.
God, did you see that, man? Did you see that?
Nah, I think he's fine.
Oh, my God.
Oh, the video was having a buffering issue there. Oh, and oh my goodness.
Damn.
Got a couple of hell riders around here. But that won't be their problem any longer. I gotta tell you, this shows you why the Russians are not doing that well in Ukraine, at least. But anyways, they said
Damn, that was like a mercy drop with that one. Like, jeez, man.
Yeah, they said liar, liar, pants on fire, and it looks like the Russians ended up actually bringing the story to life. But moving on from that, we also got to see the 53rd Brigade hitting some Russian forces in this area. We see one of them popping smokes, but sadly, they just can't pop enough smokes, as that thing turned into a exploding firework cannon over there on the road. Dude, that little fella over there is chuffing. My goodness. Oh my god. And it just keeps rolling. Hot stuff down here in the Volodar area. Anyways, moving on from that and out of the general direction, it's time for us to show y'all some more Russian forces getting taken out by FPV drones. If the video loads, and it loaded. Okay. We are very lucky that only one riff of that played, but we can see here the FPV drone flying on in. And what kind of a vehicle do we have here? Why, goodness gracious, it is a gator.
Oh.
Rip. Oh, look, we have 2 Russians here on foot.
I still hear the music.
No. Well, I couldn't. I was like deaf, pretty much. And I see someone saying that they're a little new here, and the title seems a little odd. Well, the problem is I only have about like 25 characters to work with, and this is something that I try and explain as much as I can. I only have 25 characters to work with, and I try and include 2 major bits of news in the title. So, NATO airfields being targeted was one of them, and the Russian jet being shot down near Sevastapol is the other one. So, putting those together, that's the title we get. So that's the best way I can explain it. It's not like I can write an entire essay because we have a 100 character limit, and the breaking Ukraine war news with the enforcer day blank takes up around something like 60 of those characters. So I only have about 30 or so to work with. But we can see here the drone continuing to target more Russian forces. And we see them going after another Russian vehicle. This one appears to be a UAZ, possibly, but now it's going to be a UAZ. Well, you see some Russians running through these trenches here, and one of them tripped. It appears that he paid the price for that. You see another Russian running for the Lada, but sadly he's going to get a whole lot of drone.
You would think that by now, I know Russia is not exactly what you'd call like the top of the tech industry or anything like that, not even remotely. But you would think they'd be thinking about some way to like have something you could deploy from the soldier, like a net or something you could shoot up to try to take the drone away so they can try to escape. But they literally just throw those guys in there with nothing, and like there's no way to escape the drone like when you're just a soldier on foot like that.
That's true. With no anti-drone equipment or jamming system, it's just a losing fight. But with that, that's the end of the clip right there. Very nice to see. And it's time for us to move on into our next bit of location. Well, actually, Southern Front news, where we got to see a Buke radar getting destroyed. We're going to be muting the chat music, but we can see the Buke radar right there on the move, and it's about to get splattered. Boom! Right there, and it's gone. No more Buke radar for these guys.
Rebuked.
Return to sender.
The radar has been rebuked, Briat. Oh, look, there's like somebody that's got in a car accident. He got out and turned around and looked at the wreck. He's like, oh, did that really happen?
They're like, damn, our vehicle is screwed. But with that, that's the end of the clip.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Damn, son. And moving on into Saloka Balka, we also got to see a mine-throwing truck get hit and destroyed here. These are actually fairly rare, but it's nice to see one of them get destroyed.
Also, Joseph M. Sika said in the live chat, I've been thinking about the idea forever of some kind of like personal drone defense outside of just a simple jamming device. Joseph, start you a company, a defense company, and you might be able to make a lot of money selling something like that, because I haven't seen any solution to that yet. But sell it to the Ukrainians, though. Don't sell it to the Russians.
Man, I would not sell anything to the Russians. They wouldn't even pay you because they don't even have the money. But beyond that, we can see that little mine-throwing truck here get obliterated. And it's toasting up. And it continues to burn. It burns. Ah! But anyways, that's the end of the clip right there. Very nice to see. We're always happy to see it. And by the way, thank you everyone for subscribing tonight. We have actually gotten approximately 280 new subscribers just on the stream alone. Welcome to all of y'all, and I hope y'all are having a fun time here. We're actually getting really close to getting up to 181,000 subscribers. We're about 120 away right now. So just putting that out there. If y'all start subscribing right now, y'all might be the 181,000th subscriber. But moving on from that and out of the Southern Front and down into the area around Krinky, we were able to see today that a Russian got hit with a Mark 19. If it loads, it loaded. And here is the Russian in the shed, moving around, kind of like a hamster down there. And he makes a run for it. He falls. He trips and falls. He is now trying to do a tactical roll. And
he's following training.
He is following training. They tell you to roll in Russian training. You see him continuing to move along the ground, very tactically. Interestingly enough, he is missing all of his gear. He does not have an ammo pouch. He does not have any kind of a rig. It's just his coat. That's it. So pretty interesting, but he's continuing to move on. And, ooh!
Also, notice the technique here. Oh,
notice the headlock there. I can't show.
Also, like, who crawls prone like that in the middle of like the wide open? Like crawling prone, I thought was like for crawling like when you have cover like of some sort, but you don't just crawl like that out in the open. I think you better just run.
Yeah, it's probably better to run, but he didn't, and he ended up getting Mark 19'd. But moving on from that, we also got to see that Madyar was hitting some Russians today in Kozachi Lahiri. Check it out. This is a good clip. They got the Lada and everything.
It always fits so many guys in those Ladas, it's crazy.
Oh!
It's like a clown car out here. Oh my god! Man, what kind of missile was that?
Dude, that was a bomb. It literally went straight through the center of the roof. What the hell is that? Like, what kind of bomb is this? Just dropping the god bomb
from those satellites off of Call of Duty or something. That was huge.
Look at that thing.
It's not even like a missile really. It's like a rod.
Dude, this thing was such a big explosive that it blew out the entire first floor so quickly that the second floor was still standing for like 3 seconds after the first floor was gone. Watch this, look. Oh my gosh.
Nana would be proud.
Виконав. Влучно, справно, надійно. Залізяка. Ну, та йдемося ще раз.
Oh, we get to see an instant replay.
Джага-джага, мазафака.
Oh.
Стерло. Залишилося.
Look, I hear that one more time. I gotta hear that again.
Бада-бум, джага-джага, мазафака. На ніч. Стерло. Залишилося подивитися, щося обстало. Цуцик.
Madyar is the classic.
Man, Madyar is a real one. He's a real one.
Управління БПЛА та база особового складу хробаків. На місці колишнього склепу оці вирви і заглиблення, це якраз те все, що зсипалося до глибоченного підвалу, котрий був під цією бетонною спорудою. Глибоченна, накрита надійними бетонними плитами.
He's still got the car antenna 2 years later.
It's got to be from a 99 Civic.
It's something like that, man, because he loves that thing.
На перспективу. Ну та й все. Так буде з кожним осередком хробачого. Ой.
Man, he's getting overwhelmed from all this. He said, oh. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. That was a little too much, but you get the point.
That was a little too much.
I tried, man. I tried. All right, I tried. Damn it.
That was too much, too extra, too extra.
Well, that's the end of the clip. Man, we did get to see that they did some good work in Kozachi Lahiri today. But with that, it's time for us to move on further north, up into the area of Kyiv, to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 764 of the war. One more laugh from you, Matthew. You're getting put to the outhouse.
Speech.
Here's the speech. Слава Україні.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Головне за цей день. Представив колективу нашої служби зовнішньої розвідки України нового керівника. Це бойовий генерал Олег Іващенко. Людина досвідчена, сильна. Аналітичний потенціал нашої розвідки достатньо високий. Зараз маємо додати їй можливостей оперативних дій. Потрібно більше інформації, більше можливостей впливу. Росія витрачає мільярди доларів щороку на операції в країнах їхнього інтересу. Вони поширюють хаос, підривають роботу нормальних інституцій, вкладаються в дезінформацію, в підкуп громадських та політичних лідерів. Це стосується різних регіонів планети, чутливих регіонів. Африка, різні частини Азії, Європа дуже вразлива для дестабілізації, які провокує та підживлює путінська система. Америка і Північна, і Латинська також є об'єктами російської розвідувальної та хаотизуючої діяльності. Багато в чому цей їхній вплив працює проти нашої держави і нашого захисту. Не можемо протиставити подібний ресурс, який є у Росії, зокрема фінансовий, але українці здатні перегравати Росію своєю сміливістю, рішучістю та ідеями. Служба зовнішньої розвідки України повинна стати значно активнішою у виконанні її інституційних завдань. З іншого боку, надійна робота такої організації не може бути дешевою, і це зараз завдання для уряду в цілому. І Міністерства фінансів потрібно шукати, знаходити фінансову основу для роботи нашої розвідки, розширити фінансування під конкретні проекти, під конкретні цілі і загалом під розвиток системи зовнішньої розвідки. Друге за сьогодні. Було багато міжнародної комунікації, говорили зі спікером Палати представників Сполучених Штатів Америки Майком Джонсоном про те, що зараз найголовніше для захисту життя і міжнародної безпеки. Я поінформував про ситуацію на фронті зараз, про триваючі російські удари по наших містах. Цей їхній терор лише збільшується і може бути зупинений тільки фізичною силою нашого захисту. Україна вдячна за підтримку Сполученим Штатам і кожному американцю, які відчувають, так само як і ми, що свобода ніколи не повинна програвати. І дуже важливо, щоб Конгрес зберігав своє лідерство, щоб захист свободи залишався ідеєю, що об'єднує і всередині країн, і світову більшість. І саме зараз нашою рішучістю, нашими спільними діями вирішується, яким буде світ наших дітей. Сьогодні фактично про такі саме речі говорив із головою національних зборів Франції. Вона з візитом в Україні, я вдячний за увагу до нашої держави, до того, як українці витримують цей час, цю битву. Ми обговорили перспективи, як можемо наблизити справедливе закінчення цієї війни та вигнання російських окупантів. Я подякував за підтримку парламентом Франції безпекової угоди, укладеної з президентом Макроном. Звичайно, ми говорили і про нещодавні безпекові пропозиції Еммануеля. Все те, що додає захисту від російської агресії, і все те, що обмежує російський потенціал війни, реально служить миру в Європі. Я вдячний усім нашим партнерам, хто розуміє це і допомагає Україні. І сьогодні ж зустрівся із делегацією Європарламенту представників групи Renew Europe. Це вагома європейська політична група. Невдовзі вибори в Європейський парламент. І ми в Україні усі маємо звикати, що це процес і для України важливий. Звичайно, говорили і про підтримку, і про загрози, які є зараз, і про те, чого можемо досягти всі разом в Європі. Кожен захищаючи власну країну, але також і спільні цінності, а отже, безпеку всіх європейців. І ще одне. Була сьогодні доповідь міністра оборони України Умєрова щодо оборонних пакетів, те, що отримуємо, те, над чим працюємо з партнером. Робимо все, щоб у наших воїнів було більше можливостей, більше зброї. І це буде. Дякую всім, хто дивиться.
We are back. All right, everyone. All right, goody. All right, so we are back. I'm so sorry, everyone, for the lag. I hope the Zelensky speech was not cut off at any point. But nevertheless, we are back and we are doing our thing. And Slava Ukraini. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And that moves us on in today's 764's question segment. And getting to talk about everything else. We get to talk to all y'all about whatever y'all want to talk about. Literally anything. And so, Matthew, take it away.
Question of the night and moving to our questions, we are getting a piece of massive breaking news as the speech was happening, and we're learning that air raid alarms are going off in Moldova as we speak, and at least 2 Russian cruise missiles are flying toward the country, and that was announced 5 minutes ago. And according to some reports, they have already entered Moldovan airspace. But like I said, that is very early information. I'm waiting for more corroboration of that story, but obviously that is a big deal, and I'm looking for other sources as well. And also, there has been a major missile attack happening across Ukraine, and more missiles are flying into Lviv, and Poland has dispatched their F-16s as well to once again go up and make sure no missiles are about to fly into their airspace and hit a target inside of Poland. So there is chaos going down right now because of another major Russian attack, and we're following it very closely. But Enforcer, do you have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add on that, but thank you for sharing that with us, because that is actually breaking news as we're covering the stream live right now. And so with that, let us get on into everything else that we have tonight, Matthew. The questions that we've asked everyone, the super chats, the live chats, everything, Matthew, get us into it.
So the poll question that we have left says, Ukraine says Russia is preparing for a major offensive in the summer, and the question is, will it be difficult for Ukraine? And 45% said yes, it will be extremely difficult. 33% said it will be hard but manageable, and 13% said Ukraine will handle it very well. And based on what I heard Zelensky saying earlier, it appears to be that Russia is getting ready to mobilize a lot of guys and also try to scour together as much equipment as they can possibly find from their few allies that they have, the poor allies, to launch another major offensive in the summer, which is in about a couple of months. Zelensky sounded somewhat worried by it, and also he is once again calling for aid from the West, because right now Russia is getting equipment from their allies, the evil sick people, but the good guys aren't supplying Ukraine the way they should be to properly defend against the Russians. So to me, it sounds like it's going to be probably pretty difficult. I'm not going to say it's going to be extremely hard. I think that's going a little bit too far, but it will be a challenge, especially if they don't have enough equipment to fight off the Russians. So that is imperative to get aid to Ukraine. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that it is overall a fairly concerning situation for sure, and hopefully some support can be given to Ukraine here in the near future. Sadly, I cannot reference that poll because it's long since gone for me to be able to read off all the options and stuff, but I hope I was able to address that the best I can given the circumstances. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we're going to move into our Super Chat segment while I scour all of my sources here to see if I can find any more news about Moldova, which it appears to be an odd bit of silence here before a storm breaks out, because I'm not seeing too many other articles about that, so I'll keep scanning. But our first Super Chat is going to go to Blue Flam 777 LSA, who puts in a $50 donation, and a huge shout out to you, Blue Flam, for that support. And sadly, I think he's already left for the night, but thank you very much for that $50 donation. He says, gents, you make me proud to be in the LSA, and you have a goal and make that goal clear, so all that love you and also hate can make that goal real. And yes, the naysayers bring you to your goal. And LSA, question to the chat.
And thank you so much for the support, Blue Flam 777 LSA, absolute legend of the channel. And thank you for the massive support. I gotta say, Blue Flam, that your statement there is actually correct. The haters actually do help us out in an interesting way. They actually help us out in the engagement side of things. Because one thing that the haters don't know is that no matter whether you click the like or the dislike button, it actually promotes us in the algorithm the same, whether it be one or the other. Because YouTube views it as if something is interesting enough that people are compelled to hit a button, whether it be the like or dislike button, it's something interesting enough for people to actually watch. So they should get it pushed to them so they can watch it and either dislike it or like it. So engagement is engagement as far as YouTube is concerned, and that's why it doesn't really matter to us too much whenever we get like bots in the comments or bots that, you know, hit the like button or dislike this thing every night, because engagement is engagement and it helps us out anyway. So a huge shout out to all the people who are continuously hitting the dislike button on top of hitting the like button, because everyone's helping us out in every single way. But also, thank you so much for appreciating the way we run this channel and the kind of goal that we have. We try and make it very clear, and I hope that the amount of work we put into this really reflects that, because it is incredible to know that folks like you, Blue Flammer, continue to support this channel and are behind us every single step of the way. And so with that, thank you so much once again. We will make sure to send a question to the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this question is going to go to Barry Woodward, who says, Enforcer, if a full scare is most likely imminent, then, and if you meant to say a full-scale war, by the way, he said, why isn't the U.S. beefing up troops?
The U.S. is not beefing up troops because beefing up of troops happens usually after a war starts off. Like, for example, we weren't starting a draft in America before we entered World War I or before we entered World War II. We do that afterwards. That's called mobilization. Usually comes after you've actually declared war. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well, and I thank you so much once again, Blue Flame 777, for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Panama Floyd, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you, Panama, very much. Longtime channel legend for that support. He says, difference between Iraq war and Ukraine is after we ran rampant through the Iraq army, civilians clung to their tribes instead of their nation, and Ukraine does the opposite. And yes, I realize Mideast borders, he says, were created by colonists.
And thank you for the support, Panama Floyd. And that's true that the Middle Eastern borders are created through some pretty bad border mapping, but I gotta be honest, this is a bit of a hot take. The borders in the Middle East are no worse than they are anywhere else in the world. And that's something that I always think is a little bit blown out of proportion in the Middle East, is people try and go, oh, you know, oh, the mandates, oh, it butchered the Middle East, oh, that's why everyone hates each other and kills each other, oh. And it's like, yeah, but if that's the argument, then why in the world does no one complain about Tibet? Why in the world does no one complain about Kashmir region that's controlled by Pakistan, India, and China? Why in the world does no one complain about Afghanistan, which is a very weirdly shaped country? Why in the world does no one complain about Russia, which has some really wonky borders when you actually look at the cultural differences? Why in the world does no one talk about Eastern Europe, which is literally just border gore if you actually look at the original cultures that existed within those areas? Why in the world does no one talk about the United States? Because in reality, the border up here in the northwestern part of the United States shouldn't be a perfect straight line. It actually should be pretty freaky looking if y'all saw what it was really supposed to be. But we ended up getting an agreement with the British that ended up creating this perfectly straight line pretty much throughout the top of the northwestern section of the United States. Why in the world does South America look the way it does? Why in the world does Africa look the way it does? Why in the world does anywhere look the way it does? Because in reality, none of it would look this way if it was a perfect world. And I don't get why people always make the Middle East sound like some kind of a special exception where they were screwed over, especially screwed over. And also, another thing that I have to say is that there have been a lot of opportunities during the Middle East's history recently where that could have changed, where independent autonomy could have been given to other groups, and it just wasn't. And that's something I can't really blame Western Europe for, because, like, for example, Kurdistan could easily exist if Iraq, Syria, and Turkey and Iran all just went, okay, there's this big culture of Kurds that lives within all of our shared territory. What if we just what if we just gave all of this territory to them and made them an independent state? Instead, none of them do that, and they continue to run into constant issues with the Kurds because all of them are trying to oppress the Kurdish people. And, it's like you can blame that on Europe a little bit, but that is literally as easy as all of these countries coming together on their own outside of Europe and saying, you know what, let's just give the Kurds this land, and they don't do it. So, that's like not getting on a whole tangent about like border shapes and, why they're that way. But I feel like the Middle East gets a little bit too much of leeway when it comes to their borders, when you can look at Eastern Europe and none of these borders are natural. Like if Eastern Europe looked the way it should, half of Poland is Germany. Most of Belarus, Lithuania, and Ukraine are Polish. This little part down here is actually a part of Slovakia. Slovakia and the Czech Republic shouldn't even be separate. It should most likely be Czechoslovakia or something along those lines. Pretty much the entire area down here in the Balkans. I mean, that is, I don't even know what this is, because if you look at it historically, each country had a large part of the other, and there was cultural groups that grew and died in this place over the course of several hundred years before the Ottomans even showed up. And so that's a whole border gore in its own. The Baltic states, for the most part, rather than Lithuania, never really existed in any large way. So why did they exist? And then Finland, like there's a whole bunch of just random, pretty much indigenous tribes that lived in the northern areas of Finland, Sweden, and Norway. So why in the world are those not independent countries? I mean, there's like an endless litany of things that you can complain about when it comes to the borders. The way I look at them is that, it is what it is. And I know this is like a completely side shoot, like rabbit hole. It's not even addressing the question yet, Panama, and I'm sorry about that. But that's one thing with the Middle East when people are like, Europe really screwed up the Middle East. It's like everywhere screwed up. They're not really an exception. It's like that everywhere when you really look below the surface. It's just that for some reason in the modern day, everyone thinks that Europe is like this perfect world that was carved up perfectly and carefully and meticulously, and then everywhere else was just given the wrought iron, and it's just not the case. Europe gave itself the wrought iron, and everywhere else in the rest of the world got the wrought iron as well, because that's just how it worked. But moving on from that and getting into the actual question, because I went on that rabbit hole for quite a while. Let's see here. That's interesting, Matthew. Hang on, y'all. I actually have to read this.
Also, folks, I'll just tell it on the air. We're not going to name off the guy because we don't name off other channels. But apparently, a pretty big Ukraine war YouTuber has had his channel hacked. And apparently all the videos were deleted on his channel, and the guy had about 300,000 subs, and it's been replaced with a crypto scam of all things. So it sounds to me like the guy probably didn't have 2FA turned on, which is crucial, especially when you have Russian bots trying to come after you. And you got to look for that cybersecurity stuff, use a VPN and all that good stuff. So it sounds like some security protocols weren't being adhered to, but hopefully the dude's channel can come back. It's terrible.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at this. Wow. Ripple is in, folks, apparently. But beyond that, that is very interesting to hear. And once again, channel security is a big deal. That's also why we rarely ever get to click on links that y'all send us, is because those could compromise our security. But beyond that, getting back to Panama Floyd's super chat, there is a big difference in between Ukraine and Iraq. Ukraine is a very and when I say these kinds of words, y'all do not take this in a political context, but Ukraine is a very nationalist country in the prototypical way one would think of nationalism, being proud of the country that you live in. And a lot of Ukrainians view themselves as being Ukrainians, much like pretty much all of the United States believes that they are Americans, and they all share a common national identity. And that is a really big thing for Ukraine, and that is a massive divider in between them and Middle Eastern countries, is that Ukraine can be a lot more stable in a normal situation because they view themselves as a largely homogenous society that is wrapped around their national identity, which is that of Ukraine. So I gotta say, pretty good analysis, Panama Floyd. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Folks like you make it possible. And if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to keep this stream running right now. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
All right, and our next one goes to Fifth Caliber, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much for that support, good sir. He says, you guys are doing an awesome job with the channel, and keep up the good work. And if Russia was to escalate to using nuclear weapons, and the West was directly involved, how many geopolitical issues come to a boiling point?
And thank you so much for appreciating this channel, Fifth Caliber, and thank you for saying we're doing an awesome job. We try our best. If Russia was to escalate by using nuclear weapons, really everything would come to a boiling point, at least in Europe. Not a lot would come to a boiling point outside of that. For example, most situations in East Asia would probably be on an indefinite hold during that time, because the Chinese probably wouldn't want to do anything because they'd be scared of being taken as being in concert with the Russians, and then nuclear weapons could be used by us preemptively over there, you know, if that was an emergency situation at that time. I have a feeling that really the only things that would come to a boiling point would be the issues in between NATO and Russia itself. It wouldn't immediately expand into just kicking off everything else in the world, because a lot of other countries would be scared to do something during that time, because it would be such a dangerous time to step forward and put your head out onto a chopping block, because instead of a normal axe coming down, it's a nuclear warhead coming down on your head. So I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion, Fifth Caliber. And I gotta thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you, once again, helped to make this channel possible. And if it wasn't for people like you who enjoyed this place and helped us to keep this thing running, we wouldn't be able to make it possible on a nightly basis. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also for the folks asking for an update about the Moldovan missile situation, don't want to call it the missile crisis, but that has a bad ring to it. But I'm not really seeing anything else coming out right now about it. for some reason there's a like information like void right now. It's like all the information stopped coming out. I'm not sure if Twitter and all these other platforms are having a problem right now or what. But it seems to be no more information coming out. So I'd assume that probably the missiles maybe did not enter the airspace, but it's too early to really know for certain. But for certain, we do know that Poland has scrambled F-16s, and Moldova did sound all of their air raid sirens across the country and told people to scramble to shelter. So at the moment, we'll have to wait and see what else comes out. But with that, moving on to our next super chat, we have a $20 donation from Azem Dobrodoli. And thank you very much for that support. They said a video was posted this morning of Lukashenko discussing battle plans for northeast Poland, and what do you think the chance is of such an invasion?
And Azem Dobrodoli, I thank you for your third super chat in the history of this channel ever, and helping this channel to keep on rolling. And I gotta tell you, Azem Dobrodoli, we're ahead of you by 24 hours. We actually covered that yesterday on yesterday's news, and it came out about 36 hours ago at this point. So we got you. I know this story because we actually covered this as a big thing yesterday. It was actually the major piece of news that we covered on last night's stream. But to answer that theory, I think the chances of it are actually somewhat low because the geography of the Suwalki Gap as well as the major road networks are not conducive to actually shutting off the Suwalki Gap like many people imagine. It is a thin point in NATO's control. It's only around 40 miles wide. But the reality is that there's no real roadworks or highways that travel from the southeast to the northwest, or from the northwest down to the southeast in the Suwalki Gap. All of them travel from south to north, from Poland into Lithuania. That means that the Russians and the Belarusians would not have an easy and quick attack route into the Suwalki Gap. They would actually have to launch pretty much an invasion going south and east, well, south and west into Poland from Grodno and also from Goldop up here near the Kaliningrad area, and then they would have to pretty much swing back into the Suwalki Gap to try and close it off. Or they would have to pick another major highway to try and advance down and then close off the Suwalki Gap that way. So it's actually not as straightforward as would be intended. On top of that, these forces would be dealing with some adverse terrain, especially since there are a large number of forests in this area, and also they would have to be dealing with a large number of NATO forces that are already amassed in the areas around Białystok and also near Vilnius, meaning that these guys would be in a pretty tough scenario as soon as that kind of a battle would start. So in my opinion, that would be very tough for them to pull off if they ever wanted to try and do it, but if they have the element of surprise, it may be able to go their way at least for several days, and by then they may be able to close off the Suwalki Gap, but after that, the Suwalki Gap closure probably would not last that long, maybe several weeks at best, and then it would be broken by overwhelming NATO firepower. But with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And thank you so much once again for your third support to this channel ever, and I hope I was able to address that well. And also, I'm glad that you enjoy this channel because we were able to get that story out yesterday. Actually, we were that early to the story. And what's funny is that I actually looked around because Matthew was giving me some news about the channel that got hacked and pretty much taken down pretty much and became a crypto scheme kind of a deal. I looked around and apparently another channel that one was kind of affiliated with has pretty much covered the story that we covered yesterday today, meaning that they're around a whole day behind us as far as news coverage is concerned. To that, I gotta say, what can we do? What can we do? But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat is going to go to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang, who puts in a $15 donation and says, I'm noting Vasily Nebenzia rhetoric in his speeches at the United Nations Security Council are becoming increasingly concerning and asking us if we really want war with Russia.
And I gotta say, first off, good question, and thank you so much for the support. And second off, let me make sure to double read that one, so that way I can make sure to answer this the best I can. So let's see here. Let's see here. Some rhetoric are becoming increasingly concerning, asking us if we really want war with Russia. So I would have to say, Amex 10 Speedy Bang Bang, interesting statement. I don't sadly look a lot at the United Nations because usually the United Nations is just a bunch of talking heads and they never really do anything. So sadly, I wouldn't be able to talk about his statement too well. But I would say that the overall situation that we're getting outside of the United Nations and what they're saying is quite concerning. And it does look like we're getting closer to a conventional war, a full-on land war in Europe than ever before. But hopefully that will not be the case. But still, thank you so much once
You know,
again.
you want to know how good the UN is. Just about 2 or 3 hours ago, it was announced that the UN will no longer monitor the nuclear sanctions against North Korea because Russia, who's a member of the Council and the UN, vetoed it, and they're allowing basically North Korea to have free reign, no supervision whatsoever over any of their nuclear stuff. So that's how serious the UN is. They get vetoed by a country that's committing basically a genocide. So UN's a joke.
The UN is largely a joke, and that's why I just never really pay attention to it much, because nothing's ever going to happen that's major from the United Nations, and that's something, Matthew, that I always laugh at. Just touching on something really quickly, the UN blue helmet thing, where they say the UN's going to bring soldiers to America, they're going to invade America. It's like, no, they're not, because if they ever tried to do that, America would go veto, and then they just go, oh man, and then that would literally be it. There would be nothing that would happen. So
it would honestly be better if the UN was like disbanded at this point, because if Russia's really like got that much power on the the Security Council is the thing they're sitting on, right? The
yes,
council,
the UN Security Council,
yeah.
5 members.
It's like, are we really legitimizing that by letting the UN remain legitimate? It's like, shouldn't we sort of like back out of that or demand that Russia gets removed from it or something? Because it's like they're literally our arch nemesis at this point. They're conducting a genocide against one of our allies, and it's like we're going to legitimize it by keep pretending like the UN is useful. That makes no sense.
The UN is ridiculous because it was designed from the outset to be gridlocked. Because back in the day, it was the Soviet Union that inherited Russia's chair, and if the Soviets didn't like something, all they had to do was veto it, and it would not go forward. And the United States can veto something if everyone else is in agreement, and it will not go forward. Anyone on the Security Council of the 5 members, which is the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China, any one of those members can veto something that's pretty much unanimous, and it will not go forward, ever, from that point on. It makes the entire organization useless unless if everyone is in agreement on something, and no one ever is. So from the onset, the UN is a completely useless organization, and that's something that I just find people in the world don't know that. Like, you don't know that until you actually look at how the UN works, and then you find out it is incredibly useless. Like the folks in America, because I'm not going to get into the actual reason why some people think this, but some people in America actually think that the United Nations just will have the ability one day, like the UN has a standing army, to just invade America, and America is going to do nothing, and the UN is going to own and control America. It's like they obviously are ignorant about how the UN works, because that could never happen. They don't even do anything anyways, so why in the world would that happen? I'm just, and some people are going to be knowing the exact conspiracy theory I'm talking about here, but I'm honestly not a big fan of conspiracy theories, most of them, because most of them are just founded in largely ignorance of how things really work. And then once you find out how they really work, you're like, this would never happen. Like, it just could not happen. I don't know, Matthew. Maybe you know what I'm talking about here. Like with the whole, oh my God, there's going to be NATO guys in the Appalachians. Oh, well, not NATO guys, UN guys in the Appalachians and stuff. And I'm always like, where the hell are these people getting this stuff from? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either personally. But also, it's like, are we also going to ignore the fact that the guy who's in charge of the UN is like a self-proclaimed like communist or something, like a hardcore like socialist party guy or something like that?
I think we'll probably ignore it because it's like, what does it mean? Like, what does it really do? Because it's not like the UN does anything in the first place. So it's not like having a commie socialist in charge of it's going to change anything either,
I mean, it's useless. That's true. But just the mere fact that there's also basically a commie in charge of it, that makes it even worse. It's like you got Russia, a country committing war crimes, who's on the chair of the Security Council. You got a commie in charge of the thing. And the whole operation just causes problems, basically, and it has no use. It's pointless. Like, really, the UN's one of those organizations, like, that I can confidently say has no use, and it just really needs to go.
Yeah, like an organization like that, there needs to be no ability for veto power. It needs to be a majority rule kind of a vote, and that's the only way it would be useful. And even then, you would have to have some sort of way to enforce what they vote on, and the UN has no way to enforce any vote that they make. So with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. But still, thank you so much for the support. I hope that kind of addresses why we don't pay attention to the UN much. And also, I see some people bringing up another thing. I've seen it touched on a little bit. The WEF, the World Economic Forum, and that is also a joke in my opinion, because what the hell did they do? They do nothing. I mean, like, when reality, like, I don't know why people put so much stock in those two organizations, because they're literally worthless organizations. What is the name of the WEF? The World Economic Forum. It's a place where people get together to talk. They have no power beyond their mouths. So what is the point of really paying attention to anything they have to say either? It's a useless organization like every other one that just talks, just like the UN. But those are my hot takes of the day. Is that the UN?
What kind of salaries those guys are making, though? Like, you know, they got to be making bank. Like, I have a hunch.
As some, like, it's probably a good amount of money, but who knows? Who knows? And what does it matter, anyways? You know, like, we're out here doing our own thing. You know what I mean? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
In the next super chat we have goes to Uncovered Cube, who puts in a 10 and says, for my B-Day today, and also happy birthday to you, Uncovered Cube. It's his birthday. Happy birthday. He says, please drop in on Battleship Cove, Fall River, Massachusetts, where my wife is from. Pretty cool. We've been. And she's in the cult of Matt. Hey! LSA!
Hey, let's get it, baby! And also,
I'm happy to have the wife in the cult of Matt. Everyone's welcome, including Uncovered Cube. Everybody's welcome in the cult of Matt.
Man, look at that. It's like right in like the Rhode Island, like it's right in Mount Hope Bay. I like that. Battleship Cove. Right here, Peter. The Battleship Cove is here. And look at this place. I mean, it's not that far away from Boston or Providence. But let's check this.
You want to go to Boston? You going to Boston?
Yeah, I'm going to Boston. I'm going down
to
the
over
Susquehanna
the bridge and
River.
check out the ship.
Man,
I said, take that furniture back to Jordan Marsh. I said, take it back.
Well, let's see what this place looks like. Let's see here. I think we landed on a tougher street. So let's drop down into a main street. Like Pine Street. I like Pine Street. I like the name. All right. Well, I like these houses. But for some reason, the street is like a patchwork. Maybe because it's in the Northeast, and up there, the temperature, like the heat and the cold, swells and compresses the road so much that they cause serious cracks. That's probably why it looks like a patchwork. That's one thing that's sad about colder climates, is that the roads always look like patchwork. But beyond that, I like these houses. Some of them are like late Victorian era, and that's really nice. But let's go look at the USS Massachusetts. The Iowa-class battleship sitting out here in the harbor. Wow, look at that.
In Boston Harbor. For the water sea in harbor.
Look at this. It's out there in the harbor. It's out in Boston Harbor. Well, let's see here.
That bridge looks awfully familiar for some reason. I'm not liking the looks of that bridge.
Wait, what?
You notice that bridge looks a lot like the other one.
No! No, USS Massachusetts, don't run into the pillars. But anyways. Or we've run out of power. Ding, ding, ding. Wait a minute, we're a cargo ship. Oh, whatever. But anyways, what? Oh, wait, what's this? Dude, that's honestly what I feel like after eating Taco Bell.
His name is George.
It's George Costanza.
What am I doing here? That was Gordon Ramsay. What the hell am I talking about?
George is getting really angry. But anyway.
You burnt the scallops in the effing pan. You effing.
Oh, dude, look, hedgehogs.
Oh, are they real?
Yeah, they're real.
What the hell? How'd they get on there?
I don't know, but they're cute. I like them.
Yeah, that's weird. Just random hedgehogs just crawled their way onto the boat. They know what's up.
They know what's up. But I got to tell you, the USS Massachusetts has been having some rough years. Like, the state isn't really putting a lot into its maintenance. Hopefully they start to put more into it, because it's cool. Oh, no. Ride the duck. Oh God.
Dear.
Death
Those
trap.
are dangerous death traps.
Yeah. Death trap right there. I mean, that thing right there, this may as well be like a massacre site with a Ride the Duck here, because these things are literally murder pits. But beyond that, pretty cool place. I like it. I like it, Uncovered Cube. Happy birthday to you again, by the way. I hope you've been having a great one. And also, that is the USS Lionfish? Really? The USS Lionfish is right here. This is a a GATO class submarine that was in service with the U.S. Navy back during World War II. Here's a picture of the USS Lionfish when it was in service. Pretty cool.
Oh, Lionfish.
I think it served over in the Pacific. Yeah, it did. You can see that right here because it sank a Imperial Japanese Navy ship and also a Japanese commercial vessel. So pretty cool overall. Pretty cool. But beyond that, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of the lionfish. Really like it. Nothing wrong with a little lionfish here and there. Just don't try and eat too many of them. And I don't know what this ship is over here by the side of it. And then they also got the USS Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. There it is. Look at that. What a boat. What a boat. Someone's about to say, it's a ship! And I know. I'm just messing with people. But with that, thank you so much once again for support Uncovered Cube. I hope that does address that well. And also, let's look around. Any New Leaf Cannabis Dispensary. Oh, man.
I go and get some to smoke.
Man, I'm going to go hang out near Cook Pond because I'm going to be effing cooked. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Oh. They want to hear me moaning from across the pond and want to know what's wrong. What's the matter? Nothing. I'm trying to make a hot dog. Leave me alone. Oh.
I'm cooking up a hot dog with extra relish. Oh, man.
What's that sound? That's the sound of the Bunsen burner turning on for the onions. Back away. Back away.
Oh, man. Oh, man. We really do crack ourselves up, don't we? But beyond that, thank you so much once again for support Uncovered Cube. I hope that does address that well. And also, I just want to look up here at Paul Tuckett because I've heard so much about Paul Tuckett. Haven't you, Matthew?
Nantucket, not Paul Tuckett.
Oh yeah, you're right, Nantucket. Let's go out here to Nantucket. Out here. Wait a minute. Isn't this Nantucket? No, this is Cape Cod. But where is Nantucket, by the way?
Right there on that island. Super expensive real estate, by the way. I've heard a bunch of douchebags live on Nantucket, but I haven't been there to know.
Oh yeah. Hey, look. What the hell is this? Martha's Vineyard.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Oh, look, they got their own airport too.
The Jaws Bridge. What do you know? Oh yeah, it is the bridge from the movie.
There's always some guy jumping in that water, man. Has he not learned yet? Look at everybody. Everybody wants to get a piece of that shark.
Yeah, everyone wants to get a piece of that shark. Yeah, I don't know what that picture's about. I feel like a creep took that one. But beyond that, still pretty cool. Pretty freaking cool. So I guess this is where some of the Jaws was filmed. You know what I mean? But beyond that, however, this island is kind of uninhabited. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you look around it, there's Edgartown. But anyways, let's go on over there to Nantucket. Let's go look at Nantucket. What the hell do we got going on over here? And, some people... Oh, man, I like to see it, man. I'll sit there and I'll go to something, and then people are, oh, no! And then, I don't cover it in the way they think I'm going to cover it. But anyways, let's go look over here. Nantucket. I see. So this is what Far Harbor is in Fallout 4, isn't it, Matthew?
I think so. I was just thinking in my head, if oh man, Hot Dog Boy went here, he'd have a heyday. You'd say, look around at all these grifters. Oh, could I cook you up a hot dog, good sir? You grifter bastard, you.
By the way, streams are canceled until further notice, according to the hot dog. Oh, yeah. Well, I like this place, actually. I like the cobble streets. I'm guessing they just never got a paving truck in here over the past 100 years to pave the place. But beyond that, I like it. I think it actually looks pretty cool. Would I want to live on an island? Probably not. But it is pretty neat, Do you have to take a ferry, though? Yes, you do.
I think
you have to take a ferry.
Either a ferry or a plane. I think everybody that lives on that island might have enough money to get a plane, to my understanding. Honestly, I'd be curious. It's probably too much to go into on a stream, but I'd be curious to see what the house price is on Nantucket. It's probably $2 million plus, like at the minimum.
Well, I'll tell you this, Matthew. It's not the kind of money where you could just go and easily buy yourself a sandwich. You know what I mean?
Probably not. Probably. Oh, a sandwich.
Yeah. By the time, Matthew, you got done paying for that house, you would be so poor that you would be getting picked off at Buzzards Bay. You know what I mean?
Buzzards. Man, old Buzzard. I think old Buzzard didn't live there.
Maybe he is.
The old Buzzard.
I mean, I'll tell you what, man. It is so bad down there. You would have to work at Woods Hole to be able to pay it off.
But the one good thing, not the only good thing, but the one good thing that's come out of this area. This is, I think, Cape Cod, where they make those nice chips that are really tasty.
Yeah, this is the place, isn't it?
I think so. I think they're cooking them up.
Delicious.
Those sweet and spicy jalapeno ones, I'm telling you what, they know how to cook them.
You know, I hate to rabbit hole too much, folks, but this is really what this entire segment is about. I've always wondered what's up here at the very edge of this giant piece of Cape Cod right here. I've always wondered what is up here. I want to see what the town looks like here. They got the whole thing mapped out. Oh, this actually looks really nice. Like, this is a nice place. Yeah, not bad, not bad. I mean, like, you know, I don't know
I'm trying
what...
to get to it to see it. Hold on a second. Let's see. I'll be honest with you. I've never really cared for the New England style houses, like the wood and stuff like that. I get like some people really love it, and these houses are probably expensive as hell, by the way. But it's just not my thing. I like the Southern style houses better. I'm kind of biased though because I kind of am Southern, but I like those a little bit better. But they have a lot of good lobster up here, man. Like the lobster pot. You see that right there?
Man,
they got lobsters up here, and I love some lobster. I tell you what, I heard you can get lobster cheap up there, where it's not actually like going to make you go broke.
So let's see here. What is up at the lobster pot? You got some bisque. You got some lobster. You got some alcoholic beverages. You got some oysters. You got everything
Man,
around.
I would love some of that lobster, man. I'm not paying what lobster costs to get it because I'm a cheapskate. But man, that lobster looks so good.
I'm telling you what, man, it looks delicious. I wish one day I could have some of that lobster, you know what I mean? But sadly, no lobster in our future. But still, thank you so much once again for support on Uncovered Cube. You sent us on an entire like roamabout of Massachusetts, down here in the southeastern area, and I got to southeastern area. Yeah, that's the correct. And I got to thank you so much once again, because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. So thank you so much once again, Uncovered Cube, for helping this channel to keep on running and helping this thing to be possible. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one is going to go to Heather Fitzgibbon, LSA, who puts in a $10 donation without a comment. But thank you very much, Heather Fitzgibbon, for that very generous support. But you did throw in a super sticker of the Shiba Inu dog saying thank you. And I like that a lot. And, you know, to be honest with you, Heather Fitzgibbon, I saw a Shiba Inu, like the Doge dog, for sale on somewhere. I can't remember where I ran across it the other day. It was on the internet somewhere. I was like, oh, a Shiba Inu. The corgis would love to have a Shiba Inu, but I just don't want to go through the whole process of trying to train a dog from a puppy again. It's a lot of work. But I really like a Shiba Inu dog, and I like that one saying thank you right there. But thank you very much for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
So wait a minute. We don't have enough money to eat a lobster, but we got enough money to buy a Shiba Inu? What kind of economics is this?
Well, man, I prioritize a Shiba Inu over the lobster any day.
Man, I'll tell you this, man. I'll be murdering lobsters. That's before I get to Shiba Inu. I mean, man, you would just hear in my room the crunch and snap of necks of lobsters because I'd be eating them. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support, Heather Fitzgibbon, LSA. I got to thank you for that and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you make it possible. And I got to thank you for throwing in that Shiba Inu little super sticker right there. Now, I really like my corgis. I love corgis. Absolutely adore them. Appreciate them so much. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping this channel to be possible and helping us to keep it running. And I saw Alexander Nev say, we don't eat dogs. Well, I think if we got hungry enough. No, I'm not saying I would, but I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, by the way.
No, man.
But
I wouldn't eat the dog if it was the last thing. I'd rather die and kill over before I ate the dog.
I'll tell you what, to be honest, the dog would probably end up eating me before I eat the dog. That would be the reality of it.
I'm like, if life's come to the point where I got to kill the dog and eat it, I'm like, you know, what kind of life is this?
And JB said, your Boston accent, not so good. I don't know what it's supposed to be. But anyways, with that...
Man, I'll be roasting this tonight for real. He put in a couple of roasts.
Man, dude, JB, getting brutal up in here. Don't beat us up
JB.
too much. Oh, yo, JB. Hey, JB. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Heather Fitzgibbon. I hope we addressed that well, and we're on to the next one.
And also, I see Little Bear saying the Shiba Inu have the same temperament as an Akita Inu, not easy to train. And I think you're right. That's what I've heard as well. I've heard they're as difficult to train as like the Siberian Huskies, and we've had one of those. At least my mom had one of those when I was really young. And I think our Siberian Husky died when I was like 8 or 9 years old or something like that. I can't remember for certain, but that was an escape artist of a dog. Siberian Huskies get out of everything, and if a Shiba Inu is anywhere close to that, they're like the sweetest dogs on earth, but they're also hell on earth at the same time to try to keep them in. And then they get out and get into all kinds of crap. So I don't know. I'm going to hold off on the Shiba Inu dreams for now and stick to the corgis because they're good to me. But anyways, the next one goes to Ari Soini, who puts in a $20 donation and leaves behind a super sticker of another Shiba Inu waving a flag. You're tempting me with the Shiba Inus. I'm telling you what. But thank you very much, Kiwi Wife and Finn. And Enforcer, what say you?
I got to thank you so much, Ari Soini, Kiwi Wife and Finn, for helping this channel to keep on running. And not only that, throwing in the Shiba Inu, waving the #1 flag, because this channel to be #1, baby. I mean, I got to thank you so much for that, because we continue to stand above the rest. I mean, we have two-factor authentication. We got everything going on around here. It's absolutely incredible. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, Ari Sweeney, Kiwi Wife, and Finn, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. You know what I mean? And so that, thank you so much. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Bobby Womack, who throws in a $50 donation. First time ever support on the channel. And huge shout out to you, Bobby, for supporting our work. And also, through this last segment tonight, supporting our rambling, to be perfectly honest with you, because I've been rambling about pretty much everything. But thank you very much for that support and the super sticker as well. And Enforcer, what say you?
And again, thank you so much, Bobby Womack. Thank you so much for the support. We are absolutely appreciative and love to know that you enjoy the channel so much. It's crazy because that's actually your first support ever in the history of this channel, and I got to thank you for enjoying it enough that you want to support it to help it to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, this channel just simply wouldn't be possible, and I got to thank you for that. That is really, really cool of you. And also, I got to agree with Matthew. We've been rambling through this last segment. Usually, I try and keep it with some sort of structure, but tonight, Matthew, I don't know what it is, but I feel like loopy, like my mind isn't really like focused that much. Like that's honestly how
I've been like that all day. It's the pollen and the spring weather. It's starting to get to me. Like today, I woke up and could not get out of the brain fog today, no matter what. Caffeine wouldn't get me out of it, nothing. And I've just been exhausted all day. Had to take a nap midday, which is unusual as hell for me, and it didn't help at all. So I'm assuming it's like the pollen or something, because my legs are sore for some reason. I don't even do any physical activity to be sore, so I don't know what's up with that.
I'll be honest. I mean, like I've been absolutely having a tough time keeping everything together here on stream. I mean, like, you know, it's like my mind's just drifting all over the place. So I got to thank you so much, Bobby, for supporting our stream while we were dealing with just absolute mental dissidence right now, or dissonance is probably the best thing to say. Because if it wasn't for folks like you helping the channel to keep on running, we wouldn't be able to get through the tough times to get to the good times. You know what I mean? But it's not tough like in the normal way. It's just tough to focus tonight for some reason. I have no idea why. I can't even explain it. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Nick Still Thinking, LSA, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, good sir, for that support. He says, hello, guys, and hello, LSA, and please take one from the chat, and long live the LSA.
And you know we will. You know we will. And I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you help to make this thing possible. We appreciate you greatly, and we appreciate that you're always here and helping to continue to support this channel and keep it running. And we will make sure to get a live chat in your honor. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
And the live chat question goes to Adam McLean, who says, do you think it's possible for Ukraine to strike Moscow power plants?
Yes, it is. They have stricken Moscow in its dead center before, so they could strike Moscow power plants without a doubt. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. By the way, if it sounded like I was really shaky right there talking, that's because for some reason I was about to like burp in the middle of that, so that's why I sound shaky. But with that, thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Quantum Fighter, who puts in the 10. He says, money, 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 money. That's what he said. He said, anyone remember the old PC game
Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Like, I was just going.
Oh, dang. I was trying to figure out what that was. I thought I was hearing something in my headphones. I was like, what is that? But they said, anyone remember the old PC game Operation? Body count equal potato, hedgehog. Please check out Lila Torg Malamo.
Oh, I mean, there we go.
What about the potato?
I know where that is. Here we go. I found it. Hey! But anyways, it's in Malmo, in Sweden. Cool. Let's check this place out. I see. I like. Big lamp. Big lamp.
Oh.
Houses.
Grappa.
Building.
Look at that big tree.
Building. UPS.
Hey, wait, that's Mercedes UPS. They're Gucci-fied over there.
They're Gucci-fied. Oh, nice. Nice. Big telephone. Oh, it's a telephone booth, I think, maybe. Yeah, I think it is.
That's a weird one. Definitely not like England.
Shit.
That big lamp's popular.
Man, they love the big lamp. Oh, and they got the ads on the side of the building. I like it. I like this place. It's nice. You know something, though? I want to know what it looks like down at the docks. You know what I mean? So let's go see what it looks like down here. Oh, you can actually go down here.
Toyota Logistics down here. Oh my goodness. It's the docks.
It's the docks. I mean, that's what I don't know why you went, oh my goodness. I was like, that's what the docks look like. I mean, that's what they always look like, you know? But let's see, what do they have down here? They have an oil depot. Air defense needs to be put around that in the event of a war. And let's see. They got containers. Not a lot of them, actually. So you have raw aggregates. Cool. They have just, I guess, normal port stuff. Then they have the auto transport stuff here. That's the auto transport pier. They have any raw, raw materials? Oh, here we go. Here's their, legit. Oh, no, there actually isn't a dock here. Oh, that's weird. Anyways, beyond that, I will say, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Not only that, thank you so much for letting us look at the town of Malmo. Down there in southwestern Sweden. It is incredibly cool to look at cities like this, and I gotta say that this is actually a really cool looking. Let me drop down here. I want to drop down, see what it is like right here. Cycle service. The way these guys are standing seems a little odd to me, but beyond that, I like this place. Sweden Thai Spa, nice. Lella's, nice. Nice. But it beyond
Mini Cooper.
Bike. Centralstationen Centrum Lugnet. That's what I feel like when whenever I gotta go haul around the net outside, I always say Lugnet.
There's Stuxnet and then there's Lugnet. That's when your computer goes really slow. They put that Lugnet on it.
Oh man. And then let's see here. What we got over here? We got that Lightmare Vart Duanar Pavag. And then we got that good stuff.
Oh man, got that Schweizer knot or some of that Mojo chocolate or some of that apples and croquant.
Oh, wait a minute. Apple croissant, milk chocolate, and then this one at the bottom. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
Oh man, we're gonna have to get more at the Moore Hotel.
Oh man.
It's been oddly quiet lately.
You have an extra room to spare in the Moore Hotel.
Man, interestingly enough, though, it's been oddly quiet lately. Have you noticed that, Mandy? We haven't had a hit piece made on us for I think a week now.
Yeah, it's about time to fire it back up. I think. I think the time's coming around.
Yeah,
yeah. He's using all of his self-restraint. He's trying to restrain himself. Don't be crazy. Don't be crazy. Hold it back. He's gonna burst. He's gonna do it sooner or later.
Probably right now. That's we're probably gonna hear that someone went live right now. Oh man! And then I'm gonna be turning torso to go see what the hell that's all about. You know what I mean?
Turning torso.
Yeah, look at this turning torso. Iconic twisted sculpture.
That's an office.
You're very observant.
Cool. I might have an office in there. That's pretty neat.
You said that's an office. It's yes.
Well, it could be anything. It could be an office. It could be anything,
Maybe. I mean, you got a point, I suppose. But anyways, with that, thank you so much for the support and letting us go look at Malmo. Really beautiful city, by the way. And thank you so much for being one of our Swedish viewers and supporting this channel and helping us keep this thing running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Blue Flam 777 LSA once again, who this time puts in a 10. He says, why doesn't anyone ask my granny what to do politically? Because she doesn't sell anything but lead for free. LSA, Slav Ukraine. Question to the chat.
Granny be violent. Granny be whipping out that nice brandishing a firearm charge. I like that Granny. Gives no
Granny
shit.
said, "What's the joke?" You, and whipped out the 9.
They said, "What's the punchline?" And then she punched you down on the floor. That was the punchline. But anyways, I gotta say, thank you so much for throwing in a good joke, Blue Flame 777. You always throw in good jokes. That was a good one. I got a laugh out of that. And so with that, thank you so much once again. LSA, Slava Granny, and we will send a question to the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
And the question from the chat this time is going to go to Eugene Minton, who says, any chance the thing that blew up on the plane was not a missile fired at it, but a missile it tried to fire that either blew up or had a failure of some other kind?
Could be the case, but then the question is brought up, and the question must be begged, and I do demand that you beg. What were they firing at in the area? Because if it's an air-to-air missile or an air-to-ground missile, there's nothing in the area that they would be firing at because there's no targets available. So why would they have even attempted to fire the missile for it to have exploded? That's what I'm saying, you know what I mean? But still, thank you so much for the support, Blue Flame 777, and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope I was able to address that live chat fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Jesus Cabrera, who throws in a $10 donation, but without a comment. But Jesus Cabrera, thank you very much for that support and helping to keep us running, because it is you, the viewers, just like PBS, that keeps this whole thing going. And we appreciate it very much. And our next one is going to go to AMX10 Speedy Bang Bang once again, who puts in a 10 and says that the ability of Russia to have success in military combat against the West is decreasing, and the risk of Russia lashing out at the West is increasing.
And yes, I would agree. That's a very astute observation. I believe that that is the exact kind of mathematical formula that we're looking at right now. So yes, I would agree. As their ability to wage war is lessening, their want to wage war is increasing exponentially. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And oh no. Matthew, I'm looking through because I saw you ban him, and then I saw that one of their comments was, "You will all be sorry," and it's like, no, I don't. I doubt it. I personally doubt it.
Like, sorry about what? It's like, you owe me an apology, boy.
Why do I owe you an apology? Because I said so. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
I thought you was a nice guy, but really just a rat piece of shit.
Man, I thought you would
bring out Mike Tyson.
But the rat piece of shit. Oh, come on, Mike. No, you, man. The rat piece of shit.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man, that was terrible, man, how that guy did him, though. Well, but anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Leora Avigile, who puts in a $10 donation and says, hey guys, sorry I'm late for the show tonight and late for all the news updates today. I've been working like crazy this week and I feel your pain. They said, I'm hearing escalations are happening and I hope you guys are well tonight.
And we are well indeed. We are doing quite well. We're hanging out, just been sitting around, and I gotta say, it's for some, I hate to say it, for some reason tonight, it's just one of those nights where I'm just like hardly even focused. I don't know why. I love doing this, and for some reason my mind can just not pull together to keep focused. But thank you so much for enjoying the updates, Leora. And I gotta say, I hate to hear that you're working like crazy. I hope you're having an all right time out there, though, and that work is fun for you, because I hate to hear when people hate work, because I love what we do here as far as the work goes on this channel. And so I hope that you're having a fun time out there at your place of work. And so I would have to say, yes, escalations are happening. We are covering them here on this channel, and I hope we've been able to present them well to you. And also, we are doing pretty good. Beyond us hardly being able to focus and concentrate, we're doing quite well. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Leora Avigile, for the support. I hope that does address that well. And also, Matthew, I saw an interesting question. Someone said, let's see. Oh, I see a lot of people have actually answered that question on our behalf, because someone came in and said, I'm new, so please forgive me. May I ask what you plan to do with your YouTube income? Would it be used for sending aid to Ukraine? No. Oh, they got deleted. There they go. But But it's no, the support of the channel helps us to do this. This is a job for us. We do this 6 days a week, and I don't expect anyone in the world to work for free. And to be quite honest, we can't work for free, even if we wanted to. No matter how much we would like to do that, it costs money to live. It costs money to be alive, so we have to do this as a job. If you want to support Ukraine, however, with your money, you can wait for Sunday on this channel because we run fundraisers. But beyond that, I am under absolutely no obligation to take Super Chat support sent to this channel and send it to Ukraine. I give people who support this channel the ability to do that every single Sunday. So if they want to do that, they can. If they want to support us and help us to be able to do this as a job, they can do that as well. But I'm not one of those people who sits there and starts to mingle support to us with support to Ukraine and try and mix them together so that way we can kind of skim off of Ukraine war support.
Unless False Hope would like me to redirect all of the bills to their place and let them pay it, then we might work for free.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like
False Hope just wants us to die, I guess.
Yeah,
like, no eating for you. I guess
like,
I'll go and stir fry some rocks or something, like they do in some places.
Yeah, because it's like I hate to say it, it's like no matter what we do, whether we were running a laundromat or whether we were doing this, we still have to eat. Like and eating isn't free, and also rent isn't free, and also everything else isn't free, insurance, all that kind of stuff. So funnily enough, it takes money to live, and so we can't do this for free. If we are supposed to do this for free, why isn't CNN or Fox News doing this for free? Why isn't anyone else doing this for free? Look around. Look around all of YouTube. When you go to other people's YouTube channels that cover the Ukraine war, what do they usually have? Sponsors. They sponsor war footage with sponsors. Like, they'll show you someone get blown away and then tell you that it's sponsored by Colgate or something. We don't do that here. You can either support us as a viewer or you cannot. That's how we run these streams. And that's how we're always going to run them. That's also why I make it very clear that Super Chat support goes to helping us out, helping us do this as a job. I never want to be one of those people, because this is a very sketchy thing to me when someone is running a YouTube channel and they say, hey, send money to me. It helps me to be able to do this. And also I send some of it to Ukraine. How much of it's really being sent to Ukraine? And then they never answer that question. You don't have to have that question on this channel, because you know that if you support a Sunday fundraiser, 100% of that goes to Ukraine because it's run through YouTube Give, so we can't even touch the money. And if you support the channel, you know that 100% is going to support us. And then on Sundays, I throw in $100 towards that fundraiser every single Sunday. And to be quite honest, I don't even have to do that if I didn't want to. I do it because I like to, and I like to know that I'm helping out. That's the answer to the question, just in case if anyone was wondering. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Andy L., who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Andy, for that support as well. He says, please pick a question from that chat. And we shall pick one. So the question sponsored by Andy L. is going to go to Anonymous and says, when are the first F-16s and pilots to arrive in Ukraine?
We believe that that's going to be happening by early summer at this point, so we're assuming June, maybe even late May. But that is a rough approximation that's based off of current public statements, and those public statements may not be accurate because in the past they have proven to be somewhat inaccurate. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you so much once again for the support, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Blind Ambition, who puts in a 10 and says, loving the channel, and I've been watching for the last 3 or so weeks. I recorded a couple of the requested sound bites from previous streams and sent the links to your Twitter, and have a good evening.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and helping the channel to keep on running, and thank you for doing that. We will make sure to look into them, hopefully, and we might be able to use them later, but it is just funny to us that there is a whole bunch of jokes out there about some of the peeves that have been made on this channel. But still, thank you so much once again for support, and thank you for being here for 3 weeks. You've been here only for a short amount of time compared to how long we've been running, but we're always happy to take on new folks, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Here's an amazing community, and I'm sure you'll make loads of friends. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope you have a great evening, and thank you for watching all the way from the United Kingdom. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Lord Lathos, who puts in a 10 and says, since around day 150 or so, and keep up the good work, guys.
Hey, and thank you so much for having been here since day 150. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep running as well and wanting us to keep it up, because we will make sure to keep it up. And that's crazy to me, Matthew, because for some reason in my head right then when I heard 150, I was like, oh, they've only been here for about half the time we've covered this war. Actually, they've been here for like 70 or 80% of the amount of time that we've covered this war, which is crazy when I really think about it, because we've been running that long.
Yeah, that's a long time, man. It's hard to really even think how long ago that was.
Man, that's crazy, honestly. Crazy. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also I'm trying to type up a poll real quick. That's why I'm a little bit distracted. Just trying to finalize one thing, and there we go. And our next super chat question goes to Sicka Games, who puts in a $10 donation, and it says, Andrew and Matt, here is $10 for the Ukraine Tinder Fund, courtesy of the Blyat Brigade. What in the hell is going on? Sicka Games. What the hell?
Whoa. Well, I thank you so much for this.
Guy that might want that instead.
Oh man.
Oh man,
dude.
Would you get me a Tinder subscription? Oh
You
man.
remember?
He believes those women aren't being treated right. Oh,
You brought it up. I was about to say, you remember that creepy ass community
Yeah.
post that he made when he was in Ukraine, where he was like, "Oh man, the guys over here don't know how to treat the women well," sounding like a complete simp and a creep.
It made me cringe. It made me cringe so bad. It's like, dude, the women are living their lives the way they want to live it. Like, leave them alone. Like, they don't want you to harass them.
They got this fellow over here white knighting on his vacation to Ukraine. It's like you just can't make this stuff up. It's like who cares how dates are going? That's their own damn business. Why are you getting involved? But anyways, now I can't get that out of my mind, man. Thinking about how stupid that was, because in case y'all are wondering, that was in the middle of the high drama like 8 months ago that post went out that we're talking about. Some of y'all may know what we're talking about. Most of y'all probably don't. But when I saw it, I remember everything stopped in my head, like everything, and I was just like, what kind of creep watches other people on dates? Like, I would, and I'd be like, that's their thing, they do them. This guy was over there like observing people on dates. It's like, what the hell? It's like, don't you have like something better to do? Like, I don't know, support the war, or something like that. But oh my lord, that was so funny, because I was like, what the hell? They need someone that will treat them right. It's like, not you. It's like, not you.
Yeah, it's like it looked like they were living their lives like just happily, according to what I saw. But apparently, he saw something totally different. He saw they're in need of my help because I'm the only one that can help them. It's like, my God, man! Like, you couldn't get any more cringy than this. Like, please help.
Oh my goodness. And then to top it all off, oh man, that date went effing terribly. You remember that?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you went dead silent on me. That was supposed to be like an extra punchline, and he just went dead silent. I was like, all right. But anyway,
I was trying to check something out.
Let's see. Oh, what? Oh, wait, I think I know what you're checking out. Did you reply to the thing you were checking out?
Yes, I'm trying to see what's going on.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's not. I was wondering. I was about to say, what?
Oh, man. Okay, anyways, with that, we are, thank you for the support of the channel and keep running, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Big Snack 100, who puts in a $10 donation and says, Marmot gang. Let Alan loose. Free my man Alan. Loose. He wants a plum. Marmot.
Loose.
He wants a plum. Marmot. Also, how are we doing tonight, fellas? I've been quiet tonight because I got some dinners and work's been busy.
And also, thank you so much for support and Marmot Gang. Oh, hello there. Hey, it's the Marmot. And the Marmot
My name's Alan. Would you like a rock or some plum? We have a whole variety of snacks and stuff, but we don't serve hot dogs. You got to ask the fly for that.
Oh, man. You want that with extra relish?
I don't want relish.
Guess not.
I didn't know I was doing it. I didn't know I was like recruited for that bit.
I just went back. I was like, guess not. But anyways, oh man, I'm so out of it tonight. I'm just getting a laugh out of everything. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Big Snack 100 for real. You be snacking on God. But still, I'm doing quite well. I'm just out of it for some reason. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And work has been busy for everyone, including us, because the news has been big. And like even tonight with 8.5 thousand live viewers on the peak, it's been a massive night for us even as well. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
In our next one here is going to go to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in an $8 donation and says, check out Novgorod, a naval vessel built in 1874 by Imperial Russia, and put this towards antihistamines. Oh, antihistamines. That would put me out so bad that Benadryl puts me down, like big time. But it does help. I don't think I'm to that point yet. I think it'll do more harm than good at this point for my energy levels, but we will check out that naval vessel.
Let's see. Where was it again? Can you give me the name of it again?
Novgorod naval vessel built in 1874 by Imperial Russia.
I'm going to have to do a Google search on that one. Novgorod naval vessel built in what year? 1870 something?
It's a it's a 74. 1874.
A good old 74 classic,
Yeah.
I guess. Let's see. The Russian monitor Novgorod. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. I've seen this before. I have seen this before. So, to explain, it's a perfect sphere. That's it. That's a model of it.
That's interesting.
It was stupid.
That's a boat?
Yeah, it was a boat. Here it is out there at sea.
That's like the Mickey Mouse clubhouse on the water.
It's the Mickey Mouse clubhouse. But beyond that, it was a gunboat that they float around, and I think they used it like once or twice. But it was an unmitigated failure. It was an absolute disaster, and it ended up sinking, I believe, or they ended up scrapping the remainder of them. But this thing was absolutely stupid. There was a great explanation about this thing on Ocean Liner Designs YouTube channel. Great channel. But he covers this pretty well. So I hope that does address it the best I can. Because all I could say is that was a stupid design. It was uncontrollable because it was spherical, so there was really no way to control it. It would just spin in circles endlessly if you turn on the propellers. So it was bad. It was terrible all the way around. But with that, thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you make it possible. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here right now. And so thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to IX0.0, who puts in a 6 and says, keep up the good work.
Hey, and thank you so much for wanting us to keep up the good work. And support this channel and help us to keep this thing running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep up the good work. And so thank you so much once again. And thank you for your first super chat ever. You're from the European Union, and I greatly appreciate you. And I greatly appreciate your support as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one is a massive $50 donation from Bob Y. He comes in strong tonight saying, I forgot to add the donation, LOL. And let me go up here. He said in the live chat, he said, made it late tonight, guys, but you guys do an excellent job compared to all other War Reporter news channels, and keep up the great work. And that is high praise, Bob, and thank you very much. We work hard around the clock, especially these days, ever since we've resigned from the law school, to put it in a nice political way. We are working around the clock on the YouTube channel to make it happen. And some things y'all don't even get to see publicly are being worked on in the background. They'll be released a couple of weeks from now, and we've got a lot of things planned in the future. But since we're only a month or two out of law school, we're still getting a slow kickstart here. But when I say slow, it's not really slow. It's really fast, but I call that slow. But it's going to speed up even more than that. But Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you so much for the support, Bob Y. Thank you so much for saying that we do an excellent job compared to other War Reporter channels out there. We try our best. And I think, to be quite honest with you, Bob Y, I think what's actually really helping us to grow again here on this channel is that we've pretty much survived longer than everyone else. We've endured longer, and I think that's because we did better. Some channels have completely stopped really covering the Ukraine war. Like, if you go and look at their channels, they've turned into politics channels, or they've just tried to move into other categories because they're trying to figure out how to keep up the viewership. and so they're just chasing views. We haven't done that here on this channel. We have entirely just continued to cover the war the way we have since day one. We're not going to be moving away from that anytime soon. And I gotta say, thank you so much for appreciating this channel, Bob White, and helping it to keep running, because folks like you who supported this channel this long have helped us to endure and really beat out the competition, to put it in no other better term, just by the amount of time that we've been able to stay on air. And so I gotta say, thank you so much once again, Bob White, for the support. I hope that does address that well. And I see, you know, and I always see whenever we say something like that, some people say, oh, so-and-so channel's doing pretty good, and this channel and that channel's doing that good. You know, maybe they are. I don't really pay attention to them much. And on top of that, some of them have not had necessarily the most savory things to say about this channel, so I'm not really inclined to make any positive comments about them. So with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And thank you once again for support, Bob White, and helping this channel keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Ben Cahill, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you, Ben, very much for that support. He says, damn it. Have some money and keep up good work. And I've been following since the Wagner coup, and I stayed because I like the good fun. And a shout out from Australia. Hey, Australia. He says, keep up the fun and info.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being here with us for that long. You've almost been here for a year now, because in about 3 months, that'll be when the Wagner coup is a year old now. And that's crazy to think that you've been here since the Wagner coup. And that seems like a long amount of time, but it still is only a small part of how long we've been doing this and covering this war, because we've been covering it since hour one. And so I got to thank you so much for the support, and I got to thank you for really appreciating this channel and supporting it for the first time ever. And I'm glad that you do enjoy the way we cover this, because we are the only channel, like, I know we're the only channel that, like, laughs and kind of jokes our way through the war and tries to keep spirits high, because everyone else likes to virtue signal, and I'm just not a big fan of that. But still, thank you so much once again, and with your support, we will be able to keep up the fun and the info, because we'll be able to make this channel possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to Lord Lathos once again, who puts in a 10 and says, the wife wants you to look up Greenleaf, Ohio, or Idaho, excuse me. The town laws require every household to have both a gun and someone properly trained in its use. What in the America great hell do we have going on here?
What in the hell?
I say, everybody here is going to have a gun, and they're going to know how to use it. I say.
Get their ass. But beyond that, not bad, not bad. Here's what Greenleaf, Idaho looks like. Just in case you're curious. What does it look like? Looks like this. Looks like they've been going through some economic hardships. But beyond that, they got a gun in their house, so it's okay. Now, I wonder if all of them are high points. But if they're high points, I have no respect. But if there's something other than
don't do the high point. Don't do it.
I'll tell you what. If they're high points, I'm going to have to go up here and have a talk with these people. to talk to them about how crappy the guns are. But beyond that, I got to say, not bad. Not bad. Not a bad place. But it's a small place. And it's just like right outside of the town of Caldwell, which is right near Boise, Idaho. Which I believe is the capital of the state, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe so. Hyde Park? Wow, they have one of those in Britain. But beyond that...
Jekyll,
Hyde? Or something like that. But anyways...
Raggy.
Like, Zoing Scoob, I think they're about to send us to the penitentiary site. Raggy, run! But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep it running. I hope you enjoyed our quick little look around Greenleaf in Idaho. And that is really interesting to hear. I don't really know if I'm behind something like that or not. To be honest with you, I'm kind of not behind anything that really forces people to do something. I'm sure the law isn't enforced in this town. Really, it's more of a city ordinance kind of a thing. But I don't know. But hey, look, they got railroad tracks, so that's pretty cool. That speaks for something. But anyways, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I see some folks saying that the enforcer really wants the high point. Nah, man, I've seen high points in person. Like, just spend the extra money. Like, it may hurt to spend the extra couple $100 on the Glock. Get the Glock. Don't go for the high point. My goodness, man, those high points are like crap. They work, but they're crap. And you wouldn't want to trust that with your life if you need to whip a 9mm out to like defend yourself and you're whipping out a high point. I wouldn't be trusting it. Me personally. That's just my opinion though. It works. It's a gun, of course, but not my thing.
Respect.
But unfortunately, you had something to add?
No, I didn't have much to add. That's it. I think we both covered it fairly well. But with
I
that,
vote to call it the low point from now on instead of the high point.
yeah. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Juan Pablo, who puts in a $5 donation and does not leave a comment. But Juan Pablo, thank you very much for helping to support the channel and helping to keep us running, and we appreciate it very much. And we also have a 5 from CK Bold, who says take a live chat question, and we shall. And CK Bold throws in the usual, and this live chat question is going to go to Burke, who says, if a fully ready and fueled functional modern main battle tank would be transported to the Roman Empire at the height of its power, what would be able to reverse engineer given 10 years?
Nothing. I hate to say that, but absolutely nothing. The Roman Empire, a lot of people are under the misconception that if the Roman Empire had lasted for several more centuries, they would have kickstarted the Industrial Revolution early. Sadly, that is not the case, because metallurgy, which is really the most important thing that would have kicked off the Industrial Revolution, had not progressed enough during that time to be able to allow for a metal pressure vessel to be able to hold the kind of pounds per square inch needed to actually create steam power. The Romans had experimented with steam power a little bit, but it was literally just proof of concept kind of deals. It wasn't anything that it could actually power anything for that matter, or really replace a beast of burden. So so to answer that question, if it was fully fueled, fully armed, fully equipped, the Roman Empire would not be able to reverse engineer anything from that tank, whether it be any kind of a modern main battle tank, because pretty much all of it would just be beyond their abilities, beyond their industrial capacity. It would pretty much take the entire might of Rome, all of its blacksmiths, and the entire empire working together to even try and make some of the parts of say an Abrams, and that wouldn't even be the parts needed to actually run the vehicle. And then on top of that, you run into the problem of even drilling for oil and then refining it into a fuel that can actually be used by the tank. That would take a whole other kind of infrastructure and project that would have never been seen before. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And thank you so much once again for support the CK Bold and sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Uncovered Cube, who puts in a $5 donation and says, I can't wait for the flag in LSA. And I can't wait to ship them out. I'm telling you what, they are still in production, and it's a bunch of them. And our supplier was like, you want how many now? And we're like, yep, we need that many. And they're like, okay, we'll get to work immediately. And they are still working very hard to make sure they're all good qualities. So they will be arriving shortly. But like I said before, the estimated ship date is April 22nd. If you're still wondering when those will ship out. And that is the estimate, by the way. And we hope to adhere to that date. But of course, it may be maybe a week early, maybe a week late. We don't know for certain right now, but it will be around that time frame within that margin of error. But I can't wait to get the flags out. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say, hopefully we can get those flags out soon, Uncover the Cube. And that's something we're going to be working on really hard behind the scenes to get all your flags. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Tim Swenson, who puts in a 5 and says, I got unsubsidized again. He says, make sure you check, and I think I'm going to say I got unsubscribed again.
Unsubsidized?
He said, make sure you check.
What is this,
unsubsidized? I'm like, subsidized. I'm like, he was getting a subsidization from somebody, but make sure you check and like daily.
And I thank you so much for that shout out. And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for resubscribing again. And everyone, make sure to hit that like button and make sure to check that you subscribe daily, because YouTube does go through and unsubscribe people here and there. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one, it goes to Dark Warrior 137, who says, I get no respect right now. I get no respect. Yesterday, I told the Russian government I had no money, so they taxed the sunshine out of my grass. Oh, man, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. Oh, man, it was just the other day, I was in Poland. Oh, man, I told them, hey, can I get a pole? Oh, man, they gave me nothing but the land. Oh, man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. Oh, man, the other day, I went to Red Arm. Oh, man, I thought I was going to get myself a sweet deal living in this town. Oh, man, they gave me a house filled with radium. Oh, man, I'm telling you, really putting the radium in Red Arm. Oh, man. But still,
thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running. I hope that does address that well, because folks like you make this channel possible. And so thank you so much once again. And we're on to the next one.
All right, and also, let's see here. I got a little piece of news here from a viewer. I'm trying to confirm it. So I'll tell you all this because I can't find confirmation right now, just doing a quick glance. There appears to be a news report out of Moldova. Let me go double check it once more before I say that. Actually, Romania, actually. There appears to be something crashed in Romania in an empty field. I can't tell if it's a drone. I think the viewer says they believe it's a drone that's crashed in Romania. It appears to be Russian. And it's confirmed by local TV there, according to the preliminary report. Take it with a grain of salt. But we'll have to wait and see, and probably cover that tomorrow during our short war summary after we get some more corroboration of that story. Because for some reason, I don't see any of the stuff on Twitter, and I haven't seen a new post on Twitter for at least an hour, which is really weird. So we'll have to wait and see. But moving on to our next super chat here, we have one from Dark Warrior 137, which we've already covered, and thank you once again, Dark Warrior, for that support. And the next one goes to Made in Canada 182, puts in the 5, and says, I need to see the twerking ATGM misfire clip again.
Dagnabbit, I wish we could show it, but we actually just reset the week's map, so it's on yesterday's map now, so I can't go and grab it easily. But still, thank you for the support. I hope that sadly addresses that, why we can't get it tonight. But the twerking ATGM guy with the ranting, cussing guy behind him will always be remembered, never forgotten. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Carl and Edward Brady, who each put in a $5 donation and without comments. But thank you both, Carl and Edward, for being longtime channel legends and always supporting the operation through and through. And we also have a 2 from Wyatt Logan, who says, thanks again for a great stream.
And thank you so much, Wyatt Logan, for appreciating the stream and helping us to keep this thing running. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the last one goes to Barry Badranath, who puts in a 2 and says, who picks up all the bodies?
Usually special crews out there on the front lines that are tasked with body recovery go around and pick up the dead ones. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you so much once again for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And we're now moving into our live chat questions. And up first, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. Tonight, it was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., Rumpelstiltskin, David Millsaps, and Toxic Bananas. And also, unfortunately, we'll have a couple of live chats, so you might have time to grab that clip if you want to find it. But the Morse code tonight said, according to the LSA Signal Corps, Russia is playing with fire, trying to suggest preemptive strikes on Western airfields, and long live the LSA, and thank you meant Russia.
And that's the sound of money, and y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message tonight. I think I did type in Ukraine instead of Russia. Whoa, what happened, Jack? What do you mean? But y'all got it right. Y'all got it dead on the nail. Russia's playing with fire, threatening to do something like that, and they're really about to learn a lesson, you know what I mean? But with that, I hope that does address that well. And I think, Matthew, I think I found it.
Oh?
Oh? We found it.
Good
googly boogly.
Да ну ебать, братан, бля, один раз живем нахуй.
Oh, yeah.
Готов? Выстрел!
He's so loud.
Уходим. Да ты заебал, блядь, в смысле уходим, ёб твою мать!
There he goes again.
Oh, man, we gotta listen to that.
Crazy, man.
Уходим. Да ты заебал, блядь, в смысле уходим, ёб твою мать!
I love it how he had that rant ready to go. Like the moment he started crawling away, like it was literally like a millisecond. He started that whole rant that he had prepared in his head.
Dude, it's like an NPC in a video game being prompted to begin their monologue. It's literally that. But I hope
that dude really was caked up though. Like that dude was like freaking like a bit fatty, I would say.
Like goodness.
Look at that.
Goodness.
Damn.
And not even Chris's mom has this much ass. I mean, that's a lot. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
And he is wearing flip-flops, Melinda Grifford. He is wearing flip-flops out here on the battlefield, caked up like nobody's business with this dude with the monologue prepared. This is like too much going on in this clip.
Oh my goodness. We gotta move on before we start playing it like 9 times. But still, Thank you so much for once again asking us to do that. I was able to get it because I was able to go pull up last week's map. I didn't know how many live chats we had at that point, but now I know that we only had enough to be able to go back and grab that. And so with that, it is time for us to actually get on into the first live chat of the live chat segment.
All right, and moving on to our first one, we actually only have 2 to address because we've run through all of our live chat questions that we had in the spreadsheet during the super chat segment. We had over, it looks like 15 live chats answered during the super chats, and that's where most of them went. So we're moving on to our last 2, and this one goes to Ed, who says, "Sup enforcers," and sup Ed. He says, do you think Russia still has the dead man's hand? From Irish Ed, LSA.
I don't think they have the dead man's hand anymore for the nuclear weapons. I believe it's just, you know, I think their nuclear weapons would sit dormant if there was no one to launch them, in my honest opinion. And so with that, I hope that does answer that Irish ad fairly well. I know it was a very short answer. I'm so sorry about that, but I think that's the best I can do right now. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who put in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Joseph M. Sika, who says, do you think Russia knew ISIS was going to strike and they decided to let it happen? And quote unquote, we know this is ISIS, but we're going to wait to respond because this is a good chance to blame this on Ukraine. Do you think that's the case?
Yes, that is exactly the case that the Russians are working with. Everyone knows it's ISIS. They, hell, ISIS is taking credibility for the attack, but the Russians are trying to find this will find a way to blame Ukraine, because this is a perfect time for them to do something like that. And if they blame Ukraine, they can use it to further escalate the conflict, and they wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise without a good official explanation for the public. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I gotta thank everyone so much once again for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure in running this channel and being able to have all of y'all here with us tonight. Tonight, 63,000 people have viewed this stream, and at the peak there was 8.5 thousand people here. We are, oh my lord,
Dang.
oh my goodness, oh my gosh.
Hey, he threw in his first, if not his first, his 5th ever super chat on a live stream. Mike Tyson, he said, the feast. But anyway, Jake put in that 60 Canadian. Thank you very much for that. Massive support, by the way, Jake. He says, another great show, guys, and I just happen to live in Trenton, home of the largest Air Force base in Canada, CFB Trenton.
Let's go check it out. Trenton, in Ontario, Canada. There it is. Canadian Forces Base Trenton. What do you got out here? You got a C-17, a couple of C-130s. Oh, wait a minute, you got a whole-on Boeing 737 out here. Watch out. Watch out. Be careful with that. Then we got some more C-130s. Oh my god, man, it's one of those skybox things, man. It's one of those little ugly planes.
It is.
But beyond that, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you for supporting this channel and helping us keep this thing running. Let's go check out this place, Trenton, here. What does it look like?
That's actually pretty clean.
Yeah.
Man, look at that old car right there. Like, turn back around. That is like, what car is that? That's like a Pontiac, I think?
I have no idea.
Somebody in the chat's gonna know that knows the older cars. I think it's a Pontiac. I can't tell. Like, damn, I've never seen a car like that in ages.
Man, they had to blur out that rear tire because these things are ungodly.
Yeah, I got some scene that back one.
They're like, ew, I'm seeing. They freaking blurred it out. But beyond that, this is from 2013, by the way. This like Street View.
Oh yeah, and also someone said it's an Oldsmobile, or somebody saying a Monte Carlo, a Buick. I think someone said a Cutlass. I mean, I don't know what that is. Like, everybody's all over the place with this one. Somebody said it's a Regal. I think it might be a Buick. Now that y'all mentioned it, but the wheels are a little bit different. But it might. Oh damn.
Oh, we're going through a little bit of lag.
Buick, and it threw me down.
Oh, dude, you saw the Buick and the computer went, nah, I'm gonna kill him. Today's the day. They said today's the day. But still, thank you so much. Oh, yeah, we are lagging now officially. But still, thank you so much for the support, Jake. Thank you for sharing your town of Trenton with us. And thank you for enjoying the show. Thank you for supporting this channel as well. Right when we were actually rounding out, you threw in that support, and we greatly appreciate it because you're helping this channel to be possible. But with that, it is time for us to end. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And good night, folks, and thank you all for another great stream on a Friday night of all places. And thank you all for spending your Friday night with us on the stream and pressing that like button as well. And thank you all for another great one. And of course, be sure to join us tomorrow for the Short War Summary, and also tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern for our nightly War News stream once again. And with that, Slav Ukraine, Hiram Slava, and good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
The lead street army